Hello guys, this is your friend Naruto Addict 0.2 and we are back with a new fanfic. What if Naruto met Kurenai and they built a secret bond? Part 2. And if you enjoy this fanfic then please press the like button and subscribe to my channel for more fanfic like this. And now let's start the fanfic. Bloody noses. Lots of people commenting about the upside down characters. Very simple. Fanfiction edits your stories a bit, such as double question or exclamation marks. Whether they have changed this or not, I have no idea, but I have been getting by it by using alt characters such as n. While still works, I switch it too. To keep a constant. That's what's up with the upside down characters. Onto the story. Oh, and yes, I know I haven't updated Unforeseen Air in a while. That's because most of my attention has been on this one at the moment. Give it time. And as for the hunt, it was mostly a spur of the moment idea unlike the other two. I looked over the first few couplings and absolutely hated it. Whether I ever go back to it is questionable, but if I did, I'd have to rewrite the damn thing except for the last two chapters. But anyways, onward. The next few days were less eventful. Ino wouldn't be with them until next week, which was probably a good thing considering they seemed to get sunburned around each other anymore after what happened with Kaori. Well, at least they were uneventful off the clock. Somehow, Enko had managed to set Naruto's toilet bowl on fire, with him on it. She had to listen to him growling out revenge for the loss of his newly acquired code of manhood. Luckily, that was all he lost. Nonetheless, Kurenai and Naruto got back into training. She changed the nature of the observation test again to include spotting objects hidden in the training ground and relaying what they were. She also had him doing puzzles. Word searches, mazes, sudoku, puzzle rings, anything that challenges the mind on a personal level, which was exactly what he needed, if she was honest. His stubbornness was a strong point, but it also got in the way on so many levels, including solving a problem, like how to get a ring off of two connected metal U's. It was a challenge for both of them to say the least, but if there was one thing Kurenai had in spades, it was patience, well, when it counted. She knew he could solve them under extreme pressure. She had already tried that. Flashback. This, she held up a bowl with steam coming off of it, is a bowl of ramen from Ichiraku's. Naruto was drooling. Yes it is, he agreed. So, it's come to this, she continued. Solve the puzzle in no more than 1 minute, or I'm going to dump it into the stream. His face was priceless. It was like she had threatened to murder a puppy in front of him. Back. Oh yeah, he solved it quick all right. After that, it was a matter of getting him to use that intellect in less stressful situations, which he was slowly catching on to. Other than that, his taijutsu was getting better as well, parts of it, at least. It was to a point she really couldn't help with it anymore without more experienced tutelage, and, if she was honest, it was more dangerous than a perfected style, since the precision and coordination was so varied from one attack to another. She'd have to take him into the field to see how he did. Clone coordination was slow, but still progressive. He could now see complete images with them. Useless for training, but they could now serve as basic scouts or sentries. She had a feeling it would be a while before the jutsu could relay everything the clone learns. Little by little, she was now watching as he completed the tree climbing exercise perfectly. Good job, Naruto. I think it's safe to say that you've completed the chakra exercise. He scratched his head with a grin on his face as he stood straight off the trunk of a tree. Tomorrow, we'll be starting some new exercises, so we won't be taking a mission today so I can figure out the new itinerary. You're not going to be scrounging through dumpsters or anything because of it, are you? She poked fun at him. Nah, I'm all caught up and actually have money to spend now. In fact, I wanted to offer to take you to lunch, on my Ryu, he answered. Kurenai knew better. He wanted something, most likely a question, but who was she to scrutinize a free lunch, and she had encouraged him to ask questions, though, if he wanted to take her to lunch to do it, it must be a big one. Hopefully one she could answer. Alright, but don't think of this as a date or anything, she teased, getting the desired reaction of blushing and pouting at her joke. It was a little while later, they were on the road and walking through the village. Kurenai observed the mixed glares, stares and other things directed towards her student, the feeling of a familiar someone tailing them, and Naruto's surprise that they were heading in a familiar direction. You want to go to Ichiraku's? He asked in surprise. Isn't that where we usually go? She asked knowingly. Well, yeah, but I figured you would want to go somewhere else since I'm paying. Is there any other restaurant that serves you? Besides that barbecue place that Asuma managed to get me into? No. Oh, there's also that restaurant next to my apartment, but they do a lot of weird stuff there. Kurenai was in a curious mood, such as, they sent my food out on a girl. Ah, it was really expensive too. You pay for the atmosphere. Well I guess it was pretty nice atmosphere. I bet. Ichiraku's. I'm not in the mood to have my food sent out on a girl. They have guys too. Ichiraku's. They continued their way to the ramen stand before Kurenai decided to start up the conversation again. You know, you could always try those places under a henge. Naruto shook his head. I thought about that, but then I figured, if they don't want my business, I'm not going to give them my business, plus, most of them could probably smell a henge from a mile away. So, he did have some pride in him. Once they got to Ichiraku's, they placed their orders. Kurenai watched as Naruto mustered up the resolve to ask his question. It was after the orders came that he finally blurted it out. Kur-sensei, how do you tell if a girl is attracted to you? Kurenai paused in her eating. So a question a growing boy would ask their parents. She found it surprising he would ask another female though. Well, there are usually signs that vary from girl to girl. Some will sit next to you or catch looks at you twitch. Some show it by picking on you and not realizing they're interested in you *twitch*. That one, she was expecting. Other times, they'll directly declare their intentions, and in more rare cases, they'll outright claim you as their partner. It just depends on the girl or woman. What about stalking? That set off alarm bells as to who Naruto was talking about. Sometimes, if they're really shy. Or, why do you ask? He seemed to regard something before he blurted out, "Be right back," and ran out of the stall, and towards a bush nearby. Kurenai listened with surprise as she heard a familiar eep, and then heard Naruto walking back to the stand he entered carrying Hinata, who was doing the perfect impression of a caught rabbit. He plopped her onto a stool before retaking his own seat. "Hinata has been following me around for years, and I never knew why." Kurenai watched as the pale girl went even paler. Yup, she had been caught. Naruto looked at her. So all the fevers were blushing. God, I feel stupid. You like me? Kurenai decided to coax her along. "Hinata, he's already figured it out. Just tell him. It can't do any harm." Hinata sunk at Kurenai's words, but it seemed to do the trick. Liked you, since I first met you." Naruto was surprised and doubtful at the same time. What was there to like about me? Everything. I mean, why your confidence? Why your determination? It seems like nothing can bring you down. I don't have any confidence of my own, so you're like a pillar of support for me. She poured her heart out. Naruto was quiet for a while before responding. "Despite what you think, I have my weaknesses too, Hinata." She looked at him in shock. He did. "I could have used a pillar of support too, while we were in the academy. Hell, even a friend," he continued as Hinata felt guilty, slowly sinking into herself. She could give nothing in return for what he had given her, or could she? Flashback. A 3-year-old Hinata watched as her father basically marched into the meeting room from his bedroom, her mother smiling from the door. "Mommy, why does daddy look so confidential?" The mature woman giggled. "You mean, confident, Hina-chan?" The toddler nodded. Her mother looked around conspiratorially before crouching down to her daughter. "You see these, Hina-chan?" she asked, pushing up her sizable breasts. "These can do many things, and one of them is giving a man enough confidence to be the greatest warrior." The toddler looked in awe, then looked at her of chest. "I don't have any," she pouted. The woman giggled again. "Well, when you grow up, you will. And when you find a man that you want to support, you'll know what to do." The little girl looked up cheerfully. "Hi, Ka-san." Flashback terminated. Kurenai was eating as she left the two to talk it out. She totally missed Hinata's face full of determination, unzipping her coat, grabbing Naruto by the head with both hands, and pressing him into her chest. Yeah, she missed all of that. Her first indicator was, "Naruto-kun, use my breasts as your support." She looked up and coughed up the noodles she inhaled a second later, while blood was pouring down from Naruto's face. Tuki face-faulted, and Ayama giggled as she turned red as a tomato. Hinata held on until Naruto went limp and dropped to the floor. "Naruto-kun," she shrieked. Eight. Naruto's bleary eyes opened up to see 4 people staring down at him. One with the pitcher of water that was thrown on his face. "Hey, are you alright, Naruto-kun?" Naruto shook his head to get the cobwebs out. Yeah, actually. "I am," he said as he got up. "Wow, I feel like I could take on all the Hokages myself." "Thanks, Hinata-chan," Naruto declared with a raised fist and a bright smile. Kurenai looked at the girl in shock, who was absolutely glowing in giddiness. "It worked," Hinata squealed out. "Oh god, hopefully she didn't make a habit out of it." "Sue, what does that mean for the two of you?" Ayame asked in giddy curiosity as they all went back to their seats. Naruto's face scrunched up in contemplation before clapping his hands together and putting on an apologetic face. "There's a lot of things going on right now that I want to get sorted out, so, is it alright if we start out as just friends?" Hinata fiddled with her fingers as she put on a meek pout. "I guess it's a start. I would love to be your friend Naruto-kun," she corrected in panic. "Great. Hey, wanna go do something? I have the rest of the day off." "That's alright, isn't it, Kur-sensei?" he asked, looking at her for confirmation, Hinata looking at her with hopefulness. "So long as you remember you're paying the bill," she answered, as she shrugged. He pumped his fist in the air. "Yosh. Thanks for the advice, too, Kur-sensei. It really helped me figure some stuff out." "That's an understatement. See you tomorrow," he proclaimed as he paid the bill and took Hinata by the hand, practically sending the girl to heaven right there. "I know what we can do," he started out as they left. "Wanna see the weird hotel room they gave me while my apartment is being rebuilt?" he asked as they got farther and farther away. Kurenai ate her free lunch before remembering which room he had gotten and choking. "Wait, don't show her that, they were already gone." "Why not? It's just a hotel room, isn't it?" Ayame asked as she picked up Naruto's empty bowl in the tab. Kurenai figured it wouldn't hurt to tell her, since she was so close with Naruto anyways. "It's one of the theme room at the polished kunai." Ayame perked up with interest. "Oh, which one? The dungeon one." Ayame giggled. "I don't know, maybe she'll like it. Like they say, it's always the quiet ones," she quoted with a smirk. Kurenai really wanted to retort that, she really did. But they were talking about the girl that had stalked and, just recently, molested her student. The cute innocent image Kurenai had of Hinata grew bad wings and a pointy tail. Still, she usually hides better than that. It's like she wanted to be found. Maybe that Ino girl put some panic into her. "You could sense her the whole time?" Kurenai asked in confusion. Ayame crossed her arms in defense. "I used to be a genin, until a crap-smeared punji pit nearly cost me my leg, but I still have the skills." Kurenai chuckled as she handed over her empty bowl. "A lot of things make sense now." Ayame looked at her in utter confusion. "What?" "Oh, nothing. Thanks for the meal." Kurenai dismissed as she left. Quote. What? Ayame cried out in frustration. 8. The next morning, Kurenai waited out in the training field as Naruto walked up. He looked a little perturbed, so much so that he wasn't even watching where he was going. Or, is he? Kurenai mentally questioned as he started weaving through traps. So, the results were really starting to show themselves. Once he got up to her, she could see the tinge of a blush on his face. So, how did it go last night? Kurenai cried. She had to know. I don't know what's more confusing. The whole concept of that hotel room, or that Hinata-chan knew what everything was in there. Quote. She did. Why? Yeah, it's always the quiet ones. Ayame's words went through Kurenai's mind as she went red. She looked like a kid in a candy store. She even looked through all the clothes, and showed me how that ball strap gag thingy worked, he continued as he went red just remembering it. Well, a lot of people have different tastes. God, why did she have to explain this? So it's like personal tastes in food, he compared. Thank God, yes, just like that. She jumped for a shortcut. But, if that's the case, what defines a pervert? The shortcut was a lie. And he had to ask something so damn complex. After a while of trying to think of something clever, she just decided to be honest. In the grand scheme of things, society, or at least general society, does. Perversion is a label slapped on anything that's outside the sexual norm. Wait, so out of all the types of food out there, they say only a few are normal to eat, and the rest are perverted, he asked with no small hint of irritation. Kurenai couldn't disagree with that, pretty much. Well, that's stupid, he declared, and to think I used to label people perverts too. I mean, since when have I ever fit in with general society? Well, never again. Uzumaki Naruto is a man of open-mindedness when it comes to tastes, even Hinata-chan's, even if I don't quite get them, but then I guess I'd have to try it first like any food. So I'll try that too. And that book Hinata gave me. I'm going to read that damn book. Wait, what book? This one. He showed her the dreaded orange book. Hinata gave him that. You should read it too. I'm not reading that. Why not? Her mouth opened, and then slowly closed. Despite popular belief, Kurenai wasn't some figure of righteous feminism, hell-bent on righting the wrongs of some chauvinist society. A lot of people just took her personality to represent that, along with her rank in the shinobi forces, leading her to be some sort of role model for aspiring kunoichi, willingly or not. The truth was much more surprising, yet made much more sense. She was a genjutsu user. Genjutsu wasn't something you just learned. You had to be open-minded, creative, and wholeheartedly embrace the concept of underneath the underneath. So, in essence, genjutsu was an art, and she didn't earn the title genjutsu mistress from being close-emended. So why was she condemning something she had never read? Maybe later. Anyways, onto training. She cleared the atmosphere. I can see that my traps are no longer effective, and that you are dodging them with little trouble. Haha. So, now, you are going to run through them. Quote. You don't expect to always be walking when you go through traps, do you? She made a point. Naruto slumped. So much for seeing the last of them. 8. An hour later, Naruto walked out of the hospital with a glare on his face, which matched his bandaged nose and forehead. Kurenai had the decency to put on an apologetic look. Apparently, non-lethal traps lose a lot of their namesake when running into them. Less than lethal seemed more fitting. Well, that was sure a difference in difficulty. I think we should work on your reaction time first. ***. And we're going to tone down the amount of traps for now, she added. Naruto's glare turned into an angry pout as they walked back to the training field. Look at the bright side, you got some looks from some of the nurses. So did you though, a nasally voice came from Naruto in retort, before becoming annoyed with the bandage that did nothing and pulling it off. I mean, Riza-san, Ayame-ni-chan, those nurses. Ayame, quote, she thinks you're cute. Ah, well keep it to yourself, she grumbled half-heartedly. After all, it's been a fact since she was in the academy. *flashback. Kurenai groaned for the 1000th time that day, and it was only lunchtime. It always happened on White Day. There was another present on her desk, to go with the dozen other ones she had received already. She would have been flattered, had any of them been from boys, or even if it was just friendship chocolate. No, it had to be obvious attraction, with presents to suit it. She was pretty sure most of them were only supposed to be between married couples. So, what could this one be? There was no card or anything on the box to tell who it was from. Sighing in resignation, she lifted the top off the box, and promptly choked. She couldn't imagine the work required to make a solid chocolate bust of your bust, especially those size. This was an adult's chest, but the only one that could have. Kurenai went beet red. Her suspicions were fairly confirmed later on in class when Midori-sensei winked at her and discreetly pushed her ample breasts up in an enticing manner. And she had to spend the rest of the school year with her before she graduated. Flashback end. Kur-sensei. She was jarred out of her thoughts by Naruto. She took account of their surroundings to realize they were in front of a training field. One that she didn't want to be near, especially with Naruto. Let's turn around. Kurenai-san, how are you doing on such a youthful day? They both heard, quite loudly, behind them. As soon as they turned around, Kurenai mentally cursed and Naruto gawked. Quote. Guy-san, good to see you. I was just passing through with my student so. I see. So this is your youthful student. Guy regarded him with a megawatt smile, while Naruto continued gawking. Why yes. So I have to get. I was just on my way to meet up with my students as well, now that Lee's injuries have healed. Well, then, I'll let you get to. Wait, Lee, Rock Lee? Naruto asked. Why yes, aspiring genin boy. Lee is one of my cute students and striving to prove himself to be a genius of hard work. Kurenai cringed. She could see where this is going. Wow, I haven't seen him in years. So, Naruto knew him. Then let me reacquaint you with one of my prized students. They should be up ahead. Guy gleamed. Before Kurenai could utter another syllable, Guy had grabbed her student and dashed off. This couldn't end well. She dashed off in pursuit. At Team 9's location, 501, 502, 503, 504, Lee counted off as he kicked at the training post, ignoring the pain that jolted through his leg with every kick. 507, 508, 5 smash ga. He couldn't ignore the mace that had planted itself in the training post. He turned to see his female teammate with her hand outstretched and glaring at him. Oh no, you don't. I'm not staying grounded in the village for another month because you wanted to break your other leg. She roared. But Tenten, I must make up for all the time that I was unable to build my flames of youth. Your flaming isn't going to cost us another C rank. So, sit down and shut up, because if I have to do a month of D ranks again, a broken leg won't be the only thing you go to the hospital for, she threatened menacingly. Hi, Tenten, Lee replied fearfully. Thankfully, their sensei popped into the clearing. Hello my precious students. I have brought a visitor today, who seems to know Lee, Guy shouted as he dropped an orange blob on the ground, which promptly popped up and looked in their direction. Recognition and surprise played across both Lee's and Tenten's faces. Whiskers, Tenten muttered. Naruto's face, on the other hand, turned to shock and horror upon seeing Lee. Lee. What the hell happened to you? Your hair, your clothes, you used to look so badass. Now you look like. He turned to look at their sensei and his mouth dropped, before he zipped over to Lee and started shaking him. Snap out of it, Lee. It's Goodto Sei Yo Yuto Nar Yuto Kuan, Lee managed out as Naruto continued shaking him. Nice to see you too, Whiskers ga, Tenten said crassly for being ignored before Naruto clamped on in a hug of desperation. Tenten, thank God you're still normal. I'm so confused right now. This is the sight Kurenai jumped into. Confusion played on her face as Guy talked to her. What a youthful bond our students have. To show such happiness at seeing friend after such a long time truly brings a tear to my eye. He started sobbing while Tenten tried prying off Naruto and Kurenai was weirded out by Guy. She was all for defying gender stereotypes, but seeing a grown man, in spandex, crying, was a little too much. Guy-sensei, seeing an old comrade has stoked my fires of youth to the max. Then they must be unleashed upon the world in all their flaming glory. Guy-sensei, Lee, Guy-sensei, Lee, Naruto gawked in horror. What the hell am I watching? He whimpered. I like to call it a convergence event, Tenten hysterically joked. You mean like from that video game that came out? It's just as scary. As soon as the beach and sunset appeared, Naruto couldn't agree more. Tenten avoided the sight by diverting her attention to something else, like the woman trying desperately to dispel whatever hideous genjutsu the two green-clad horrors were using while simultaneously backing away. Oi, Whiskers, who is she? She asked curiously. Naruto gladly tore his eyes away to regard his sensei. That's Kurenai-sensei. She's my Junin instructor, he explained, before watching Tenten light up in surprise and, he could have sworn he saw her buns twitch. You have a female Junin for a sensei. Lucky twerp. I want one, instead of the psycho in a leotard, she whined. Finding female shinobi past Genin wasn't too difficult, but finding one past Chunin was. It was like there was some barrier between the two ranks that only a few women could squeeze through to Tokubetsu Junin or above. Kurenai tore her sight away from the horror that continued babbling incoherently and shouting, youth, every now and then, as eccentric as Guy is, he's an elite Junin. He can teach you more than a regular Junin, like me, can. That's if I really want to learn what he has to teach, Tenten pouted. Tenten in a green leotard ga, Naruto found himself in a headlock. Never mention that image again or I'll pop your head off, Tenten growled. Okay, Tenten in a pink gymnastics leotard. All went quiet for only a second before the noogie of death came. You little pervert. You were supposed to stay cute and innocent, not gain a sex drive. OWW, I'm a man of many tastes. And look who's talking, wanting to prey upon cute, innocent boys. Kurenai regarded the two bickering teenagers until she finally had to ask, where exactly did you two, three, meet? They stopped and looked at her. Well, there was a year between when I was kicked out of the orphanage and when I got my apartment. So, he was a part of my gang. Tenten finished for him, with crossed arms and a smug grin. How can you call the orphans stealing food a gang? Naruto retorted. Because it sounds better than street rats, Tenten rebuked. Kurenai was confused. Wait, why weren't you and Lee in an orphanage? Tenten put on a scowl as she looked at the ground. My mother never took me to one. She just took me to the market one day when I was 4, gave me 300 ryu, and disappeared, and Lee, well, his parents used a shady group to get over to this continent from somewhere, and once they got here, the group sold them into forced labor and kicked Lee to the curb, because he wasn't useful to them. She spit out. Kurenai could sympathize. She couldn't believe crap like that still happened. There was something eating her though. Naruto, why didn't you go to the Hokage as soon as you were kicked out? She asked. Naruto shrugged. I didn't know about Gigi until he caught us. Wait, caught you? She asked for clarification. Tenten gave it. Yeah. This one ramen shop had a bunch of takeout bowls to be delivered. So I distracted the owner and his daughter, while Lee and Whiskers snuck in and took them. Apparently, they went to the Hokage, cause we were caught by Anbu and taken to him an hour later. Naruto snickered. Hey Tenten, look what I can do, he stated before doing a stupid-looking dance. Shish, shut up. It was the best thing I could come up with. Twerp, Tenten shouted out in embarrassment. What a heartbreaking story. To know that two of my students went through such unyouthful times when they were cute little children dampens my spirit. All three of them deadpanned as Guy cried about the unyouthfulness of it all, then tuned them out as Lee counteracted him and they started hugging again. Hey, Tenten, where's your other teammate? Naruto asked. He's doing something with his clan today. Trust me, you're not missing much. He can be kind of, well, an ass. There was no denying it. He was. Even with as much of a pretty boy he was. Yosh, it's been decided. Guy jolted them out of their side conversation. We must have a spar between Lee and your youthful student. Tenten and Naruto looked confused. How the hell did they come to that decision? Kurenai, on the other hand, was in a cold sweat. I don't think that's such a great idea. I've only been teaching him for a week and a half now. Ah, but I want to try out the moves you've been teaching me, Naruto coaxed, much to Kurenai's horror. He had just associated her to his taijutsu after all. Then it's settled. A minute later found Lee and Naruto facing each other, while the rest were on the sidelines. As soon as the two got into their stances, Guy choked a little and Kurenai started formulating excuses. As soon as they started, the difference between the two was very, very apparent. It looks like something two drunk guys were using that I saw last week, Tenten mumbled, much to Kurenai's embarrassment. Naruto had already taken a few hits, since Lee could practically see his movements before he made them, which was his downfall. Guy was about to call it off when crack. Everybody was wide-eyed. Naruto's left leg was straight up in the air, and Lee was on the ground holding his nose. Naruto was down by him and apologizing a second later. You're mixing well-executed moves into an otherwise unimpressive style, lulling an opponent into a false sense of superiority, only to pull the rug out from under their feet. Deceptive, Kurenai-san, as I should have expected from Konoha's genjutsu mistress. Guy deduced as Naruto helped up Lee, whose hands were now covered in blood. Tenten's buns twitched again. She even had a title. Yosh, Lee screamed, which caused everybody to jump. To be bested by a worthy opponent is truly inspiring. I must train harder so next time it will be me that triumphs. I will start with 50 laps around the village. And if I cannot do that, I will do 200 chin-ups. And if I can't do that, Lee ran off to do said exercises, with Guy quickly following behind. Wait Lee, we need to get your nose fixed. You're leaking your youthful blood all over the place. As they left the clearing, Tenten slumped and sighed. So much for training today, she grumbled. You're free to join us, since I think Naruto grounded your team for another week, Kurenai offered, just glad her taijutsu training with him wasn't the complete flop she thought it was going to be. Tenten groaned at Kurenai's claim. Another week. I'm not all that good at taijutsu, so I wouldn't make as good of a sparring partner as Lee would, and I like my nose intact, she added as she wrinkled hers up. We won't be working on taijutsu. Instead, we'll be working on something that I've been holding off on until Naruto's chakra control was better, ninjutsu. As soon as she said that word, both of them lit up like the sun. Sure, I'd love to join you, Tenten practically squealed as Naruto hyperactively vented some excitement in the background. Kurenai's eyebrows went up. I take it Guy doesn't teach ninjutsu much, she asked. Tenten huffed, more like never. It's always taijutsu, kenjutsu, and more taijutsu. I don't even like taijutsu. If I have to use taijutsu, it means I'm out of weapons. And if I'm out of weapons, it's a cold day in hell. I mean, I know he does it because of Lee's condition, and the Hyuga's distaste for anything outside of their own jutsu, but come on. I want a lean jutsu, she pouted. Kurenai growled a sigh. It seemed every sensei had their faults. Well then, here is your chance. So let's get out of here before he comes back, she stated. For all her defense towards Guy, she really wasn't looking forward to seeing him twice in one day. She was sure that was a lethal dose. 8. Back at where it all started. Finding new jutsu was a little more difficult than going to some special Junin section of the library and pulling a few out. In fact, there were none at the library. The only place that Kurenai knew of where there was anything of that nature was the tower archives, and to get in there, you needed a good reason and permission from the Hokage. To teach your student, usually only worked once, and she really didn't want to use it this early in the game. So, she was left with few options, since all jutsu, except the ones they used at the academy, were closely guarded by their users. Even the ones that were stolen, or known by multiple groups weren't shared openly, no matter what rank or difficulty. After all, a jutsu everybody knows, is hardly an advantage in a fight. So, Kurenai, not having many jutsu past the basics, had to use the BTS approach. Beg, trade, or steal. The second problem was finding someone that had jutsu that she could teach. As obvious of a target as Kakashi was, she had nothing of value to him, and she hadn't seen him around anyways. Enko, no, her jutsu were a little too specialized and lethal for a fresh genin. Guy, fuck no. Her best bet was Asuma, but even being his girlfriend, it wasn't likely he would give a few away for free to teach. So, she had to compromise. Flashback. Could you repeat that? I couldn't hear it, Asuma replied to her mumbled offer. She sighed before speaking up. I said, if you let me copy down a few jutsu. I'll wear that lingerie, next time. A million-watt grin came to Asuma's face a second later. Deal. Which ones did you want to know? Some that I can teach to Naruto without the fear of him destroying his surroundings too early. Asuma nodded. So, some supplementary jutsu. I have a number of them. And you're only going to give me a few. She pouted. He grinned mischievously. Well, how else am I going to see you in more sets of lingerie? He quipped. She sighed. You and your obsession with lacy, frilly things. He shrugged. Everybody has their fetishes. Tell you what, you indulge me once out of every month, and you have access to my complete arsenal. What an offer. Be vulnerable to his kinky will a day out of the month, for jutsu that lasted a lifetime, even knowing she would be teaching them to her student. After an amount of thought, she nodded. All right, you have yourself a deal. She stuck out her hand to shake, but Asuma grabbed it and pulled her into sealing it with a kiss. Flashback end. So, here she was, looking down at her student and a starry-eyed guest. Alright, before I teach you anything more destructive than you already have, we'll start with some supplementary jutsu. Naruto looked at her questioningly. What are supplementary jutsu? Any jutsu that isn't used purely for offense or defense. Your shuriken Kage Bushin, for instance, can only be used to attack an opponent. Naruto lit up. So my Kage Bushin is a supplementary jutsu because it can be used for a lot of things. Kurenai nodded. Correct. Supplemental jutsu can also be solely for one purpose as well, such as signaling your team, marking a tree, or, she went through some hand signs, Sweden, blessed trickle, and a small disruption formed above and in front of her. The two genin watched in surprise as water formed a small vortex and started pouring out of the middle and onto the ground before Kurenai put her hand into the water to emphasize it. A potable source of water wherever you go. Since it's a very low-ranked jutsu, the extra chakra needed for people without an affinity for water is acceptable, but it gets more difficult in arid climates, such as deserts, where the humidity is much less. Tenten perked up. Oh, so it pulls the humidity out of the air to make it work. Correct. Now, I'm going to show you how to do it. The next half hour was spent having them memorize the hand signs before continuing. This jutsu doesn't have a set amount of chakra needed, so it will be bigger and smaller depending on the amount you put into it. Do please try for the smallest amount you can put into it. She stared directly at Naruto when she said that, who pouted in return. Meanwhile, Tenten was already priming the jutsu. A few seconds later, she got the desired results. Yosh. Slap. Her hand was over her mouth, and her eyes were wide. That did not just come out of her mouth. She turned her head when she heard a snicker to see Naruto trying to contain himself and Kurenai trying to hide a ghost of a smirk. It seems your teammate is rubbing off on you, Kurenai stated in amusement. I don't want any part of him rubbing off on me. Tenten with a bowl cut. Shut up, Whiskers. Alright, settle down. Naruto, it's your turn. Kurenai prompted as she took a few steps back. She had faith in him, to not flood out the field, but she really didn't want to get wet. Lo and behold, when Naruto performed it, he ended up with a flow 3 times the size of theirs. Naruto was pretty upbeat about it. Cool, portable shower. Well, I guess that's one way to look at it. But we obviously need to progress to the next chakra exercise. Now for the last jutsu. Both genin snapped to attention. This is one I've recently used quite a lot, as Naruto can attest. She ran through more hand signs before slapping her hand to the ground. Doden. Sinkhole. And the jutsu did just that. Ah, so that's how you make all those pitfalls, Naruto pointed. He always had the idea of a chibified Kurenai digging holes everywhere with a shovel. Tenten, on the other hand, looked about ready to cry. You mean I don't have to dig out a camp latrine ever again? Best sensei ever, Tenten cried as she clamped on and hugged. Kurenai didn't know what to do with the sobbing girl as Naruto came up with a question. What's a camp latrine? A hole where you go to the bathroom in a temporary camp, she answered. Oh, eewwwww. They make you dig those. Kurenai mentally thanked Naruto for getting the girl to let go to address the question. Worse, they make me bury them when we break down camp too. Just because I'm the weapon expert and actually thought to bring an entrenching tool, she griped. Hi, that's a heart-wrenching story, but how about I teach it to you first before we run out of time? That got their attention as both looked at her expectantly. She taught them the hand signs and the technique for gauging the size of the hole they wanted. A few minutes later, Naruto and Kurenai were staring down into the hole that Naruto had made. It wasn't very wide, only about 1.5 feet, but damn was it deep. How deep did you make it? Kurenai asked. I have no idea, but I think I put too much chakra into it. That's an understatement, Kurenai poked as she grabbed a kunai and dropped it down the hole. They both listened for the clunk of hitting bottom as Tenten marveled at her instant latrine, a little ways away. Instead, they finally heard a splash and realized there was air billowing out of the hole. They both stepped back when the hole started making familiar gurgling sounds. A few seconds later, water started lazily gushing out like a fountain and pooling on the ground. It caught the attention of Tenten almost instantly. Cool. You made a bat it. It's too big though, you'd never be able to use it. The other two sweat dropped. When is it going to stop? Naruto finally asked, only to get a headshake from his sensei. It's not. Hai no Kuni is filled with artesian springs, hot and cold, and it's safe to say, you just hit one of them. Oh, awesome, he grumbled. Well, I guess we'll have to tell the Sandame about this so it can either get fixed, or at least stop flooding out the training field, so let's call it a day, Kurenai stated with a groan as the water started rising above the soles of their sandals. It would have just ended at that, had Tenten not tripped in her own hole, that had flooded with water, and fallen flat on her face. 8. At the tower. So, Naruto gave it a water feature, the Hokage summarized. Yes, Hokage-sama, Kurenai confirmed. I see, he puffed out smoke, I'll have a team make it pretty and drain into one of the rivers. Can't a Doden user just plug it up? Kurenai asked. No, the old Hokage answered ominously, once the natural seal of bedrock and the like has been disrupted, it's almost impossible to seal it again. We found that out with Training Ground 38. I don't think I've ever heard of Training Ground 38, Kurenai admitted. That's because it's Lake Nariku now. Lake Nariku used to be a training ground. We sealed it up all right. Then it leaked through in other places, washed the soil out and made a giant sinkhole, which filled up into a lake, which is why the thing is over 200 feet deep, the Hokage reminisced. Who managed to crack it in the first place? She asked curiously. The Hokage put on a retrospective smirk. A wily redhead kunoichi named Kushina. Said the training ground was ugly anyways after it turned itself into a lake. I wish she was with us still. Speaking of wily shinobi, where is Naruto? He asked to change the atmosphere. Ah, he took Tenten to get her nose fixed while I came here. I was surprised they knew each other. I was even more surprised how they knew each other. The Hokage sighed. Yes, another thing I wish wouldn't have happened. If it wasn't for Tuki, I would have never known he was out of the orphanage. But then, if he hadn't been out of the orphanage, Tenten and Lee might have still been on the streets, like a lot of orphans that are dropped off in Konoha. Kurenai cringed. It was a normal occurrence then. Speaking of kids, I expect grandchildren sooner or later, the Hokage hinted, if it could even be called that. Kurenai went red. That's a discussion for a later time. I gotta go find Naruto by Hokage-sama, she blurted out as she left. Come on, you've been dancing around each other for almost a decade. I've been saving up for the wedding so long I'm pretty sure I could book the Tsuchikage's office for it. And make it a granddaughter, the Hokage called out behind her, before chuckling and going back to reading his orange book. It would happen sooner or later, whether he was alive to see it was the real question. 8. Outside the tower asterisk. Kurenai grumbled mentally as she walked down the road. What the hell was the Hokage thinking, saying that? That's the cutest scowl I've seen on your face yet, an all too familiar voice called. The second half of the equation. What's got you in such a sour mood? Asuma asked as he caught up and kept pace with Kurenai. I was talking with your father. Well, that would usually put me in a sour mood, not you though. Come on, maybe I can help. Kurenai grumbled before relenting. He asked about grandchildren. Asuma choked. What? Konohamaru isn't enough, so he wants more. As in ours. As in yours and mine. As in having a kid. That's a terrible idea. Quote. I mean, we both just got teams and all, and we haven't even gotten them past their first C rank or genin exam. So definitely not the right time to even think about kids. He elaborated to save a lot of different things, but Kurenai wasn't paying attention or even looking at him. He turned to see what she was looking at. She was looking at a dumpster with legs, or more precisely, a dumpster with legs sticking out of it, little kicking legs. The dumpster decided to spit the rest of the person out, as they hopped down. It was a girl, possibly only 4 years old, in the rattiest dress he had ever seen, no shoes, and long, ratty brown hair. Ah, an orphan that was probably abandoned in the market. By the time Asuma turned back to Kurenai, she was not next to him anymore. Instead, she was leaving a vendor with a bun of melon bread and approaching the girl. What's she going to do? Feed her? He mumbled out questioningly. 5 minutes later, Kurenai walked down the road, a 4-year-old under her arm happily eating melon bread. Asuma shook his head in amusement. Congratulations. You caught a 40-pounder, he joked. I don't even think she weighs that much. I hardly feel anything, she admitted. Now came the important question. So, what are you going to do with her? She looked at him pointedly. Obviously, I'm taking her to the orphanage. Ah, what if they don't take her? He asked, but Kurenai was unperturbed. It's the orphanage, Asuma. They have an obligation to take in any orphans, she argued. 8. A while later, the matron of the orphanage shut the door, but 3 of them were still outside. Full. How could the orphanage be full? Kurenai asked heatedly. Since there's only one, and way too many orphans in Konoha, especially with out-of-towners dropping a lot off too, Asuma retorted. Kurenai bit her lip. This wasn't good. Now what was she supposed to do? Put her back. Yeah, that would feel real great on her conscience. They both looked at her, and she looked right back. Growl. Asuma's sweat dropped and Kurenai's eyebrows went up. She just ate melon bread. How is she still hungry? Growl. Kurenai sighed in resignation. All right, I get it. Let's go find something to eat before thinking about the problem, she declared. Asuma quietly chuckled as he followed. With Naruto and Tenten. I'm still mad at you, Tenten huffed as she rubbed at the band-aid across the bridge of her nose. Hey, you're the one that tripped in her own toilet hole, Naruto argued. Because you flooded it out so I couldn't see it. Where is this awesome place to eat anyways, she grumbled. Behold, we're here, he proclaimed as he pulled back the curtains of a restaurant for them to enter. Tenten felt like she should know this place. Then she froze up when she got inside. Welcome, both operators welcomed before seeing Tenten. A pregnant pause between the 3 ensued until Tuki remembered. Ah, it's the happy dance girl, he proclaimed as Ayame lit up in realization. Oh yeah, look what I can do, she mimicked before imitating the dance, leaving Naruto to snicker and Tenten to go red in embarrassment. Hey, would everybody stop commenting on that? I was 5 for heaven's sake, she complained. Ah, but it was so cute. You would have made a great ad girl to drum up business, Ayame retorted making Tenten huff. Anyways, what will it be you two? Tuki finally got down to business. They gave their orders and conversed about non-embarrassing things. What happened after they were split up, the academy, and the like. It wasn't 10 minutes later, when they were halfway into their meal that 3 people entered the shop. Naruto was confused. He knew Asuma was his sensei's boyfriend, but, Kurenai-sensei, I never knew you had a kid, he stated in surprise. Kurenai regarded her student, before sighing. I can't do that, she mumbled before speaking up. She's not mine, Naruto. I found her rutting through a dumpster near the Hokage Tower, she explained. A look passed through both Tenten's and Naruto's features. Oh, both of them replied solemnly. I tried taking her to the orphanage, but for some asinine reason, it's full. Yeah, they only start saying that when they have 2 kids per bed, so they probably are, Naruto replied with a retrospective scowl. That kinda makes me happy I was left on the streets, Tenten commented with a cringe. How are there so many orphans to begin with? What, is everybody doing what my mother did? If by that, you mean take you to Konoha and drop you off in the market or a playground, then yes. They think they'll have it better here, being a large village. They might be right, actually, even on the streets, but it puts a lot of strain on the existing orphanage, especially when most clans don't adopt kids, and the shinobi that do are few and far between. That leaves only civilians. Asuma educated them. Naruto asked the million-dollar question as the little girl fidgeted on her stool, watching everyone around her talk. So, what are you going to do with her? Adopt her. Everybody looked to Kurenai, who grimaced. I can't. Neither of us can while we have fresh teams. It wouldn't be fair to her. Before anything else could be said or argued about, Ayame piped up. So, she's up for grabs. Everybody looked at her in shock, especially Tuki, but she pressed on by looking down at the girl. What's your name, sweetie? Instead of answering, she seemed to shrink in on herself. Ayame tried coaxing her. Come on. I'm sure you have a cute voice to go with that face. Everybody wants to hear it. The grill was near tears now. But why you'll hit me? The mood dropped like a rock. Why would I want to do that? MMOM my LL ways hit me when NIT tall ked. Ayame was quiet, before she went around the counter. The little girl looked like she was bracing for a hit, until Ayame put her hands on her shoulders. Well, no one is going to do that here, so you can talk as much as you like, she said with a forced smile. The girl lit up and she nodded eagerly. So, what's your name? My name is Bitch, the little girl replied happily, yet no one shared it. Everyone was gawking before, now they were close to tears from the shock. Why hi, your name is Bitch, Ayame asked as emotions and other things tried escaping her mouth. The girl nodded eagerly again, oblivious to the mood around her. Mommy said it was the perfect name for me. All were quiet as they tried to hold their emotions and murderous thoughts inside. Ayame picked up the girl, and no, it's not. So she better pray I don't find her to tell her how wrong she was. So, now your name is Reiko. Ichiraku Reiko. You're gonna be my little sister, so let's get you cleaned up. Ayame spoke past the quiver in her voice as she walked through the kitchen and into their house, Tuki staying quiet as they passed. Once they were out of sight, Tuki excused himself as well. Nobody minded, since they all lost their appetite. They left the stand a little while later. Well, at least it turned out to be a happy ending, sort of. Naruto tried lightening the mood. True, but still, the things she said, they should have never happened. My mom at least named me, and she never hit me, Tenten replied before trailing off. So, there are kids that have it worse than me, Naruto mumbled, but everyone heard it. There always will be Naruto. You think you've seen the worst of humanity, only to find something worse. You'll find that out the longer you're a ninja. It wasn't Kurenai that spoke, it was Asuma. The best you can do is try to make the situation right, if you have the power to do so. Everyone nodded at that sagely advice. From a Sarutobi no less. Go figure. Once they had broken up and said their goodbyes, Kurenai found Asuma still following her with a smirk on his face. Oh, already? Kurenai groaned. Asuma resolutely nodded. Oh yes Kurenai-chan. I've been trying to imagine it for a while now, so you bet it's happening tonight. Kurenai tensed up as she was picked up bridal style. Even if I have to carry you there myself, he finished with a predatory grin. Kurenai crossed her arms before giving him a pouting glare. Start walking then, chauffeur. Asuma smile doubled. Yes milady, he answered as he started walking again. Sex machine. Asterisk in training ground 11. 2 shinobi found the lazy geyser that Naruto had created in the grove of trees where that night's training took place. Great, we're gonna have to line the hole so it doesn't wash out any more soil, then channel it into the river. I hate this job, one of the shinobi griped as he rubbed at his temple. Hey, isn't this the same training ground that Brat Uzumaki and his sensei uses? The same one that refilled the Junin lounge couch cushions with dog shit. Yup, well now, this calls for some payback. We were supposed to make a fountain, let's make it unique. They both chuckled evilly as they got to work. A few days later, Naruto made his way down to Ichiraku's. They hadn't gotten their next shipment in yet, so he still relied on them for sustenance, well, them and room service. There was a small kitchenette in his hotel room, but hopefully his apartment was done before their shipment came in. As soon as he entered the flaps, he was assaulted. Welcome, with the cuteness. Ayame had turned Reiko into a mini-me, except with blue eyes, and longer, light brown, hair. Whoa, Naruto exclaimed in surprise. Right, amazing what a cute little sister I found under the layers of dirt. She's going to have boys flocking to her by the dozens, unlike me, Ayame pouted. I don't know why, if I didn't see you as a sister, I would date you, Naruto admitted. You'd only date me because I can make ramen, she huffed back. That's totally only partially true. Quote. You'd also look good in naked apron, making ramen, he teased. Wow, where did you learn that? Quote. Mostly my imagination. No, I mean, naked apron. Oh, from this book Hinata-chan gave to me, he answered as he pulled out a familiar orange book. It's pretty boring, but the chapters Hinata-chan bookmarked are, he giggled with a blush. Ayame palmed her face. It was always the quiet ones. What are you talking about? Nothing, they quickly replied to the 4-year-old they just remembered was there. 8. With Kurenai, she had decided to get breakfast out for a change, and since Asuma had been with her since yesterday, he tagged along, feeling pretty hungry himself. Strenuous exercise will do that. Before they could even find a restaurant, they bumped into a fellow sensei. Ah, there you two lovebirds are. Kurenai looked curiously at Sum. What did you need us for, Sum-san? Something seemed to shock the feral woman. Wait. No stuttering out denials of a relationship. Not even blushing. They both sighed. Our teams figured it out pretty quickly, so there's no real reason to hide it, Asuma replied. Well, shit, that's no fun. But anyways, I'm looking to set up a joint training session as part of Operation Bring Out Hinata. What a catchy name. Kurenai summed it up pretty quickly. So, you want Naruto? Pretty much. If I've seen right, I'm sure his opinion of what I do will really boost her confidence. Kurenai gave her a hesitant look. Isn't her confidence getting boosted enough already? She already convinced him to read Ika Ika. Bah, once I'm done with her, she'll be able to write her own book. Mumble, that's what I'm afraid of. Mumble, what are you planning to do anyways? Sum waved her finger. That's a secret. This secret, doing, isn't going to earn the ire of a certain Hyuga head, is it? PFF'd. Hiyashi. He couldn't say no to me if he wanted to, especially after reminding him of a certain teammate I caught looking at my ass more times than I can count. Kurenai could only shake her head at that image. So, why do you want my team too? Asuma asked with a quirked eyebrow. I figured your students would benefit from some actual physical training. Asuma huffed indignantly. They get plenty of that. Yeah, sure. The sloth, the glutton, and the fangirl. I believe that as much as you're not in a relationship. Let me guess, if you're not doing strategy games, you're doing teamwork exercises. Asuma turned away as he scratched his cheek. If I can even get them to do the teamwork exercises, mutter lazy sacks of. Well, I'm in, Kurenai cut off. Sure, it was for less than professional reasons, but it would be interesting to see where her students stacked up to the other genin. The only real gauges she had so far were Ino and Tenten. One was less than ideal, and the other was a year ahead of him. Asuma conceded. All right, sure, why not? Good. I'll see you two, and your teams, in 3 days, training ground 8:30 a.m. Yeah, Sum excused herself. Once she was gone, Asuma turned to Kurenai. Speaking of students, did you want Ino to even come over again? He asked, knowing that she was more of a handful than a help. Sure, she was the one that managed to get the other two off their butts, but that was about it. Yes, actually. Sorry Asuma, but I'm going to try scaring the fangirl out of her. Asuma looked skeptical. You're not going to traumatize her, are you? Kurenai looked at Asuma. Seriously, do you have a better idea? No. Kurenai turned to continue to the restaurant. Then trust me. She'll either shape up or ship out. Asuma still had a bad feeling, but decided to go with it. All right. I'll send her over then. Hopefully, I don't get my ass reamed by Inoichi. I don't think he'll have much to say about it. 8. Later that morning, Ino walked to the training field that Naruto and his sensei used. She wasn't looking forward to it, for multiple reasons. First and foremost, she had found out where Team 7 trained, finally, and wanted to see Sasuke-kun. As much fun as it was learning tree climbing, she had her priorities. Second of all was the whole thing with her mom about Naruto. Honestly, why was she so adamant about her getting with him? She could hardly look at him without her face heating up by the end of that day, thanks to her. Between the embarrassingly diverse relationship statuses, the condoms, and the creative thinking about his clone technique, it was a wonder she didn't just shrivel up and die right there. She had to wonder if it was true though. 3 Narutos, and her. She shook her head furiously and tried to will away the blush. Damn it, it was a week ago and I still can't get those stupid thoughts out of my head, she growled to herself. Her current problems were forgotten as she heard the clinks and clanks of steel coming from Team 11's training ground. What the hell? They didn't start without her, did they? She quickened her pace until she entered the clearing, and then froze dead in her tracks. Kurenai and Naruto were fighting ninjas she had never seen before. And, if the wounds on the two were anything to go by, it wasn't a friendly fight. Ino's mind raced in panic. Infiltrators. Assassins. Kidnappers. Who the hell were they? Just then, a fresh wound was sliced into Kurenai's shoulder. Ino knew they wouldn't last long enough to get help. She grabbed a kunai and charged into the field to help in whatever way she could. Before she even made it halfway there, something snapped around her leg, sending her to the ground with a yelp, and her kunai flying away from her. Her head snapped up and she looked at her leg to see a trap with rubber-coated jaws locked around her leg. It wasn't a second later that a chain popped out of the ground and tensed to the trap before starting to quickly drag her away from the fight. She only managed a scream of help, which fell on overly busy ears, as she was pulled further into the forest. Where the hell was this thing taking her? If it belonged to those ninja, she didn't want to find out. She reached for another kunai, only to find out she hadn't secured her holster in her haste, and all her extra kunai were on the ground and out of reach by now. Panic started setting in as she tried grabbing for something, anything, to stop her movement, but she was going too fast, and whatever was on the end of the chain was too strong. Now, she uselessly tried clawing the ground in fear. Then, she saw it. A large machine on wheels was reeling her in like a fish, manned by more of those ninja. Her travel went vertical as the spool hoisted her up off the ground. Before she could even regain her bearing, one of the ninja quickly strapped her arms tight to her side, along with her legs. She tried to scream for help again, only to have a bit shoved into her mouth and tightened around her head. She screamed incoherently as she thrashed around uselessly, tears streaming out, especially when she felt the contraption she was hanging from start moving farther away from the fight. Were they even still alive? The cart moved 60 feet before it stopped again. Ino's eyes flew open wide. Oh god, they got Kurenai, sensei, too. She was sitting on a tree stump, staring at her. Ino's head snapped to the enemy ninja, to find them wavering out of existence, leaving. Naruto. Everything was quiet, until Kurenai spoke up. Do you know what this is, Ino? She asked, pointing to the machine that had pulled her in. The girl was still reeling in shock, so her answer never came. Kurenai pressed forward. This is a device, used solely by slavers, to capture and separate ninja from their teams, while they're distracted. Ninja tend to be more lucrative than civilians after all, especially kunoichi, since there's always someone willing to pay for one. Care to guess how many kunoichi, a year, slavers manage to capture? Kurenai didn't expect an answer. Ino was still gagged after all. About 14 or 15 a year from the various villages. In fact, we lost one last month. You wouldn't happen to know a purple-haired girl named Amy, would you? Two pairs of eyes widened in shock. So, they both knew her. She was captured right out from under her team while on AC rank. It's curious to note that she was part of a group dedicated to idolizing Uchiha Sasuke. Apparently, it didn't help her as she marched right into this particular trap, and watched as her team was ambushed and powerless to help her. Didn't they send a rescue team after her or anything? Naruto argued. Kurenai regarded him before motioning towards Ino. Let her out before I continue. Naruto quickly did just that, leaving an angry student and a trembling one, both looking at her. It was a day before Konoha got the message, since the team couldn't leave their clients unprotected to pursue her. By the time they were able to send a team after her, the slavers were long gone and their tracks cold. They called it off. But she's still out there. They can't stop looking, Naruto shouted, causing Ino to jerk. Kurenai shook her head. Do you have any idea what slavers can do to you in a month? A foreboding silence permeated the area. When I was still a genin, we went on a recovery mission as well. Another kunoichi, who had somehow made it to Chunin, even while being a member of a similar fan club, had been caught unaware. Unlike many incidents, we found her, 3 days after she was caught. It didn't matter. By the time we got to her, she could only say one sentence over and over again. I'm a good girl. Both genin looked at her in horror. Almost every kunoichi seems to think rape is the worst thing that can happen to a woman. No, the worst that can happen is being broken. Broken to the point that rape looks like a reward for good behavior. They managed to break her in only 3 days, through means I don't even want to imagine. And what do they have in common? They were both fangirls, she emphasized above her regular tone of voice and staring directly at Ino. Just like you, they shirked off training, and worried more about their looks than getting strong enough to counter such a situation. That is a dangerous thing to do in this profession, Ino, because slavers are only one group of many that would love to take a kunoichi as a prize. Another village looking to build the Yamanaka clan for themselves. A group with a grudge against your father. Even a nuke nin who's you caught. The list is endless. I don't care if you want to go after a boy. I don't even care if you want to be part of a group idolizing that boy, Ino, but you have to take this seriously. Otherwise it won't be me on this end of the machine that reels you in next time, and it might be you mumbling, I'm a good girl, over and over again, Kurenai drove home sternly. Obviously, the girl used mascara, because it was running down her face with the tears. It was a long minute before Ino actually spoke up. What happened to her? Kurenai was hoping she'd ask that question. The kunoichi we saved. You should ask your mother. She would know better than me. You need to get cleaned up anyways, so training is cancelled for the day. Ino shakily nodded before shakily getting up and leaving. Is she going to be alright, Kur-sensei? Naruto asked after she had left the field. Kurenai thought about it, before an idea came to her. Give her a little while, then go check on her. If she's up to it, you two can train together. For now, help me get this wound up so I can take it back to my apartment. Naruto nodded before his head froze. Wait, you mean you own this thing? He asked as he pointed to the machine. I own a lot of traps. It's been sort of a fascination since the one that caught me, she admitted. So, you own these too? He asked holding up the stuff that he had restrained Ino with. She quickly snatched them up. They came with the machine, so stop that thought process, cold, she stated with a narrowed glare. Hi, Naruto quickly complied, before one of the chains jingled, indicating one of the other traps went off. Before Kurenai could decide what to do, Naruto did it for her and his the line retract, pulling in. Oh no, I've been caught. Such a fine catch too. It was Asuma, obviously goofing around. Throw it back. I don't want it, Kurenai deadpanned humorously. Such a cruel captor, he cried. 8. With Ino, she walked home numbly, still traumatized by what had happened not even an hour ago. Eventually, she found herself opening her front door. Did you forget something, Anoich? Ino, what the hell happened to you? Kaori cried out at seeing her daughter, who left only a while ago, in such a state. It looked like she was dragged behind a horse. Oh god, she wasn't. Ino told her what happened before she could continue. After she finished, she looked up to see a haunted look on her mother's face, before Kaori looked back to her daughter with a mother's concern. Come on, let's get you cleaned up. And it looks like I have to mend your clothes. Kaori ushered her daughter into the house. A while later found Ino in a towel, staring at the floor, while her mother mended her clothes. Kaori didn't know why she didn't just grab another set from her room, or she might. Ino finally looked up at her mother. Mom, did you know the kunoichi that Kurenai-sensei helped rescue? Kaori nearly stabbed her finder with the needle, before regarding her daughter and her question. Yes I do. Who was she? Ino asked. Kaori fidgeted uncomfortably. She was hoping to get the life without having to tell her. Well, that was me, she finally admitted. The result was instant, as Ino looked at her mother with a face of pure horror. What? Ino cried out. Kaori sighed. I was to the one that was caught, Ino. But what they did to her. They. Kaori chuckled hauntedly. Amazing how quickly they can break down a person, isn't it? As soon as they had me back at camp, they stripped me, stuck me in a straitjacket, and injected me with so many chemicals, I was foaming at the mouth. By nightfall. Ino's words got stuck behind the ever-growing lump in her throat as her mother's eyes grew dim and distant, before she started mumbling. The next day they strapped me to a chair and fastened electrodes to me. Mom. Quote. What's your name? Kaori BZZZT. I screamed from the pain. Your name is Slave, now. What's your name? K-Cow BZZZT. They left it on longer as I thrashed around. Your name is Slave. What is your name? Please no BZZZT. What is your name? I'm not BZZZT. What is your name? Please, BZZZT. My body felt like it was on fire, but they kept holding the button down. When they stopped, I was hardly breathing. What is your name? They screamed at me while I was trying to breathe and sob at the same time. SSSLA huh. She was jolted out of her episode when something grabbed a hold of her. She looked down to see a blonde girl hugging her while bawling her eyes out. Quote. Ino, it's all right. I'm perfectly fine now. She tried coaxing the girl, but for some reason, it didn't work. It took Kaori almost a half an hour to get her daughter to let up. It wasn't all that horrible, and I was rescued in the end. It would have been nice if it had been a little sooner, but hey. Beggars can't be choosers as they say, and I sure was begging, ha ha ha. Apparently her little joke wasn't all that funny cause Ino looked about to break down crying again. Besides, there's a good side to what happened, she added in panic. What good could have come from that? Ino sobbed out. Well, if I hadn't been captured, you would have never been born. Ino shot up to stare at her mother with a look of pure horror as all the color drained from her face. It only took Kaori a second to realize why. No. That came out wrong. You're definitely Inoichi's daughter and not a product of rape. In fact, they didn't even rape me because it would damage the goods. What I meant was if I hadn't been captured, I wouldn't have fallen in love with your father. He was the one that helped me recover from it, after all, she corrected. Some of the color went back to Ino's face as the sobbing turned into a tear every now and then down her already disheveled face. You said you met at a party, Ino mumbled in accusation. Kaori huffed. Well, I wasn't going to tell my 10-year-old that we met while I was secured to a hospital gurney, singing, Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. Ino, I was kidding. I have no idea what I was singing and your father would never tell me, so stop with the crying, Kaori ordered before continuing. Anyways, only a couple visits after I was lucid again, we fell in love. That sounds more like Florence Nightingale syndrome, Ino replied. It could have been, or some twisted form of Stockholm syndrome on my part, or both. But in the end, I gave up on Minato-kun, and he broke up with Izumi. It's a good thing too. She was nothing but trouble. I don't even want to imagine what would have happened if they married and had a family, especially now that Inoichi is mine. Well, that was a rather possessive claim. Ino ignored it in favor of asking something else. Who was Minato? The Yondaime. Ino's eyes turned into saucers. You were trying to go out with the Yondaime. Quote. Keyword. Trying. Just like all the other girls that were fawning over him, aka the Namikaze Minato fan club. I shirked training and worried more about trying to win him over than my career. In the end, he went for a fiery redhead with the strength to back it up, and I almost got turned into some sex pet for a fat, rich bastard, Kaori explained as she stared seriously at Ino. Ino sat silently, thinking about it all before speaking up. Amy got caught by slavers a month ago. I know. Her sister looks like the Walking Dead because of it. I know it's cruel to say, but it's probably better if we didn't find her, because she's probably not her anymore, and hasn't been for some time. There's a reason Kurenai-san did this, and I'm sure you know well and good what she was trying to get across, so I don't need to press it. I do, however, want to add my own little bit, she started, causing Ino to look at her in confusion. Why do you want Sasuke? No, wait, let me guess. He's dark, handsome, cool, mysterious and good at everything. Kaori stole the words right out of Ino's open mouth. Guys like that find their own girls, Ino. If he hasn't shown interest, he never is. Take it from an ex-fangirl who's been down the same road. Is that why you're so hell-bent on me getting with Naruto? Ino confronted her. Kaori smirked. Well, let's see here. Sasuke is dark, handsome, cool, and mysterious. Every 13-year-old girl's fantasy. Naruto is caring, funny, cute, protective, loyal, and full of surprises. Any grown woman's idea of the perfect guy. Oh, there's also, Kaori looked around conspiratorially, before walking up to Ino and whispering something in her ear. Ino went completely red a second later. How the heck would you know that? Quote. Kaori shrugged. Various sources. Why do you think Hinata is after him? Ino's mouth dropped. You mean, she can see. The chakra network runs through the whole body Ino. She can see the network running through it, Kaori explained. We're talking about Hinata here. Shy little girl who can't even talk to Naruto. Kaori chuckled humorlessly. Don't let the shyness fool you. If she is anything like her mother, well, let's just say Naruto wouldn't be bored, Kaori countered. Ino shook her head trying to clear the thoughts out of her head when there was a knock on the door. I'll go see who it is, Kaori proclaimed as she did just that, letting Ino stew in everything her mother had told her. It was a lot to take in after all. Too bad her mother didn't give her the time to even bolt behind a door before she shoved Naruto into the room. Look Ino, it's your bed toy, come to make sure you're alright. How much sweeter can you get? Mom, I'm still in a towel, Ino shrieked as she redundantly covered her towel-encased body. That's more fabric than you usually wear. So, I'll just leave you two alone to talk. Despite saying that, she took 3 steps, sat down on the couch, and stared at them intently. They both sweat dropped before Naruto awkwardly started up. I came to see if you were alright after Kur-sensei's lesson. Even though she was trying to prove a point, it was still pretty scary, even though all I did was tie you up and let you go. Ino could have sworn she heard her mother mumble, shoulda skipped the last part. Yeah, I'm fine. It scared me half to death, but I get it. I do need to train more and take this seriously. Besides, it's not like I have much of a chance with Sasuke-kun anyways, what with Sakura on his team, she complained. Naruto chuckled to lighten the mood, he's never shown any interest in girls anyways. I'm pretty sure he's gay. You think so too? Kaori asked in surprise. Naruto scratched his head, well, yeah. I mean, he'd have to be gay if he can ignore a girl like Ino. All went silent. Naruto looked in confusion, thinking he had said something wrong, to see Kaori's face turning to a look of absolute glee, and Ino gawking as she turned red, again. Naruto decided to get to the other reason why he was here. Anyways. I know Kur-sensei cancelled training, but I was wondering if you wanted to train together. I could even show you a jutsu that's great for making pitfalls and other stuff. Wasu sure. Ino woke up out of her trance and agreed. If she was going to start training, might as well start now. And a jutsu, definitely. Kaori was starry-eyed on the couch. God, she could practically hear wedding bells already, and then Naruto continued. Oh yeah, first, I have to return this book back to Hinata-chan, since I've read it 3 times already, he stated with a blush, holding up a familiar orange book. Kaori's mouth dropped open, before she was paging through it after it disappeared out of Naruto's hand. She borrowed him this. It even has chapters marked, including that scene. You naughty little girl, she's conditioning him. It looks like I'll have to resort to more aggressive tactics, Kaori decided and thought while the two looked at her in surprise. She looked at Ino with fierce determination. Ino didn't like that look. Kaori bolted out of the room and came back a second later with another set of clothes. Here's your clothes, Ino. But what about my other? Oh, those. I wasn't actually fixing them anyways, she admitted as she picked them up and threw them in the trash. So give me this, and get into these, she ordered, pulling off the towel like a tablecloth trick and shoving the clothes into Ino's statue's arms. A high-pitched scream later and Ino bolted for the bathroom. Prepare to be dazzled, huh? Naruto was on the ground, bleeding all over her floor. Kaori shook her head with her hands on her hips, honestly. It's like you've never seen her naked before, she huffed. There was a pause before a smirk came to her face and a marker appeared in her hand. 8. A while later, Inoichi yawned as he made his way back to his house. It had been a long, tiring day at work, so he was looking forward to food and sleep. As he neared the house, he noticed a pillar of smoke coming from his backyard. Great, just what he needed, a reason for the bureaucrats to harp on, remind him about Konoha's yard waste burning regulations. He made his way to the backyard to scold his wife, only to pause in confusion. She was cackling as she threw clothes into a burning barrel. Kaori, what are you doing? He finally asked. Burning Ino's clothes, she stated simply as she threw the last pile in, having sensed him come into the yard. Why? Because I got her new clothes, she chirped. Oh, and what if Ino doesn't like them? Kaori gave him a knowing look. Well, obviously, she's going to love them because her old ones are on fire, she replied like it should have been obvious. Inoichi could only shake his head and sigh. He had to remind himself that if anyone were to look at her psychiatric profile, it wouldn't be stamped, recovered. Instead, it was stamped, released to the care of _ with his name in the margin. Hey, he was a horny bastard back then, it was manageable, and even insane, she was a better choice than Izumi. A much better choice. Still, did that make him a bad person? I'm really horny now. Inoichi's vision quickly focused to his wife, to see her staring at him. A mischievous smirk played on her face a second later and she jumped into his arms. You should tie me to the bed and fuck me until I can't scream anymore, she suggested. ... Well, they say good guys finish last, and he sure as hell took home the gold. Those were his thoughts as his exhaustion was forgotten and he cleared a path to the bedroom. 8. Next morning, Kurenai could only pinch the bridge of her nose as Naruto retold the tale of what happened the night before. From seeing Ino in her birthday suit, to finding out Kaori wrote, property of Uzumaki Ino, on his chest after taking off his jacket during training. Nothing is ever simple with you, is it? She accused. Hey, it's not my fault Ino's mom is trying way too hard to get us to hook up. I mean, sure, she's cute, really cute, especially with that new outfit, but I mean, we argue all the time. That's hardly arguing, that's bickering, and a lot of concrete couples do it, Kurenai retorted. Plus Hinata kinda came first. This time Kurenai bent down and looked him dead in the eye. You are not a piece of property for some girl to call dibs on. It doesn't matter who was first, how long they've been attracted, or what they wrote on you. It's who you want to pursue, she admonished. As much as she liked Hinata, and liked the idea of the two getting together, she was going to shoot down any ideas Naruto had of being obligated to pick her, just because she was first. When had she turned into Dr. Love? Naruto absorbed that like a sponge, especially since she stared right at him when she said it. He also saw something else, like the bags under her eyes. Hey Kur-sensei, aren't you getting enough sleep? Number. Get used to it, because you're going to see it a few times out of every month, she replied grouchily. Okay, he responded. He got that she was grouchy from a lack of sleep, but why every month? Anyways, now that you have tree climbing down, we'll start working on a new exercise. Walking on water. Naruto was shocked. You mean the same thing that guy, those annoying people preach about, could do? I thought it was just a joke so I take their pamphlets. No, it's not a joke, but don't talk to them anyways. They give me the creeps. Then, after you have a good grasp on it, it's to the mission hall. That seems like a pretty short day, he admitted. Instead of answering, she just looked at him with a quirked eyebrow. But, then, you look like you could really use the sleep, and I can train on my own time after I get it, he added after seeing how she looked again. Yeah, sleep, we'll see. Now, let's find that fountain that you conveniently forced the groundskeepers to install. It will be perfect for this training, she replied. They headed over to the grove of trees that she had taken them to for ninjutsu. It would have been folly to take them into the middle with the very possible outcome of turning the field into a swamp. A little while later, Kurenai was staring at the thing that was supposed to be a fountain. She rubbed at her eyes. Naruto, please tell me I'm hallucinating. Quote. Naruto was at a loss for words. Kurenai reopened her eyes to look at it. It was about 20 feet tall, channeled the water right through the top, and had a large base for water to pool in before running down an aqueduct to the nearest stream. Is this someone's sick idea of a joke? She growled. Maybe they're getting me back for some prank or something, or maybe they're just perverts, the words seemed to fit. Or both, Kurenai grumbled. Possibly. How long do you think it took them to erect it? She stared at him, then realized he was actually asking and not telling a bad joke and facepalmed. She was too tired to continue worrying. Fuck it, let's get this over with. Naruto was surprised. His sensei cursed. Wait, what? You mean we have to train near that thing? Quote, you have a better idea. The top edge of a large waterfall. Nice try, she said, pointing for him to get in. Naruto grumbled as he got into the shin-high pool of water. Okay, I'm wet. Now what, Kur-sensei? She walked into the pool next, or onto the pool more like it. Channel chakra to the soles of your feet, just like tree climbing, except instead of trying to stick to a surface, you're repelling from it. The trick is how much you need to repel to equalize your weight on the top of the water. Wow, that's it. Wait, so can you do it on air too? It's impossible. Water is a lot denser than air, which is why you can propel yourself through it by just using your arms. You can't do the same with air. Not only would the amount of chakra needed make it lethal to most ninja to even use for a single step, but you would get extreme chakra burns and fry out the tenketsu you used to try it, she replied. That doesn't sound like a good idea. Trust me, many people through the ages have found that out the hard way. Now you try. After a few tries, he started to get a grasp of it. She told him to continue practicing as she got off the pool and walked over to a tree. She figured she might as well start on her own stupid exercise since a nap was probably not going to happen. She pulled a leaf off the tree and sat down before putting it between her palms and concentrating on it. You'd think with her chakra control, it would be a lot simpler, but nature manipulation was a whole different beast. Hell, she didn't even know what her affinity was before a couple days ago, having mastered other fields to gain the title of Junin and leaving ninjutsu on the back burner. She always had some dread that it would be fire, further making her look like some imitation Uchiha, but her ability to use a water jutsu made that outcome almost impossible. Instead, it was something neither her, nor Asuma, expected. Flashback. What are you doing? Looking for the magic pocket you pulled this out of, Kurenai joked, dryly, as she circled Asuma again, looking at his numerous pockets. Oh come on, it's always good to be prepared. So you keep chakra paper on you at all times. Among other things. So, why do you want to test your affinity anyways? You've never shown any interest in learning about nature manipulation. That's because I was mastering other fields, and there wasn't much time to learn anything new with, well, you know. Asuma sighed out smoke. Yeah, I know. So, time to make up for what was lost, huh? Well, give it a go. Kurenai concentrated on the piece of paper and channeled her chakra into it. Only for it to tear in half. Kurenai's shock was just as profound as Asuma's. A wind element. Woo, that's my girl. Give it a few months and we'll be wearing matching shirts. Very funny. I don't get it though. My father had a fire affinity, so why would I have wind? An ancestral hand-me-down maybe. It wouldn't be the first time an affinity skipped a generation. Plus look at me. Both fire and wind. So, it's far from impossible or improbable. Kurenai had to give him that. Alright then. So, what's the first jutsu? She half-heartedly tried to skip what was going to come next. Oh, it's a doozy. It's called Fuden. Leaf splitter, he joked as he pulled a leaf off of a tree and handed it to her. She had been there when he went through it after all, so she knew the whole process already. Get it down, and I'll trust you not to kill yourself with something more powerful. You think I'd screw up? She asked gruffly as she grabbed the leaf. If I was able to fuck it up so bad as to put me in the hospital for a month, so can you. The only wind jutsu I know are offensive and above B rank, so just teaching them to you is a no-go until you get the basics down. Quote. Joy, Kurenai sighed as she stared at the leaf. It shouldn't take you that long. You already know how it all works from my training after all. I give you 3 weeks at most. I'll shoot for 2. End flashback. She opened her hand and looked at the results. A quarter of the way in only a couple days, but then, Asuma was right, she did have it easy. When he started with nature manipulation, his mother had already died in the Kyuubi attack, meaning he had to scrounge whatever she had left via notes, and what little he could glean off of his father. From that, he had practically set up all the exercises himself. Cutting the leaf for precision. Stopping a waterfall for power. Forming it to a weapon to incorporate the two, and a myriad of smaller exercises for more specialized uses of the element. As much as he hated to admit it, his father's knack for figuring things out had definitely passed down to him. She grabbed another leaf and started the exercise over, as the sounds of the nearby fountain washed her hearing in the white noise of water falling, and Naruto splashing around. The feeling of the breeze passed by her, and the sun was warm. Step, 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 step. This was way easier than tree climbing. Probably because it relied on a lot of the same training, but hey. He was walking on freaking water. All-terrain ninja go. Hey Kur. Oh, he quieted down when he saw her leaned over and dead to the world. Well, she was getting sleep now, so no reason to wake her. Might as well get it down as much as I can, he mumbled to himself as he started back up. 8. Kurenai stirred as a smell brushed her senses. A smell that made her stomach growl. Her eyes finally cracked open to see Naruto eating something. Wait, when the heck did he get food? Wait, why was she even asleep? She groaned as she rubbed the sleep out of her eyes. How long was I out? She groaned. About 3 hours, he replied between bites. And why didn't you wake me up? She asked with a little irritation. Well, you were getting sleep. Why wait until you get back home only to find out you can't anymore? Quote. Point taken. You at least got me some too, I hope. Naruto noted before handing over a takeout box. Figured you'd need it, what with the crappy start this morning. Why thank you. It wasn't. This isn't ramen. Where did you get yakisoba? She asked in confusion. From a vendor wagon that was passing through on the way to some festival in another town. Really? And all you got was yakisoba? Naruto's eyes shifted. No, it's just all that made it back here. That makes more sense. Anyways, how far did you manage to get with water walking? She asked before breaking her chopsticks apart. I can walk pretty well on it, even the weird channel leading to the stream. Kurenai stopped eating. Weird channel. Yeah, it opens up into a spillway, and it has 2 smaller channels that branch off the end and swirl into a bean-like shaw. I already get it. No need to say any more. She cut him off in embarrassment. Damn perverted groundskeepers making fertility statues in her training field. Before they could finish eating, an Anbu with purple hair phased into existence next to them. Your team is. There was a pause as the Anbu caught sight of the fountain. Being requested for a mission. You are to be there in no more than an hour. Understood. Kurenai answered back awkwardly. They were making the poor woman play gopher in the village. It wasn't bad enough she lost her sister. They have to play the, for your own safety, bullshit on her. Then, to top it all off, see a giant penis fountain. Poor woman. With the message relayed, the Anbu left for whatever her next task was. 8. A while later, Kurenai and her student walked away from the mission office as she read through the mission that had specifically requested them. It wasn't anything odd, just chores around the house. It was strange that it was a civilian counselor requesting him though. Naruto, you wouldn't happen to know Haruno Makoto, would you? She asked, looking away from the scroll to regard her student. A look of surprise and a light blush appeared on his face as he responded, yeah. I've known her for a few years. She's Sakura's mom, so, she's not hostile towards you. Not in the least bit. She is pushing me towards her daughter though, he fibbed slightly, which fooled Kurenai. Alright then, let's get going. Hopefully, this doesn't turn out like the Yamanakas. Naruto shook his head. Nah. She's not that passionate about hooking her up with me. I think. Thank God for small miracles, Kurenai mumbled. 8. Kurenai knocked on the door, and only seconds later, it was opened. For a widower and a single parent, Makoto still had the looks. Probably why she had half the council wrapped around her finger. Not much in the bust region, but everything else more than compensated for it. Her daughter was almost a spitting image. As soon as Makoto saw Naruto, her face lit up, before pulling him into a hug. Naru-chan, I haven't seen you in ages. And now you're part of the forces. Away, you're growing up too fast. She pulled back to look at him, you've even gotten taller. Finally getting some nutritional food in you, or did you just start hanging from a clothes rack to stretch yourself out? She teased, causing Naruto to scratch his cheek while still blushing. Kur-sensei is helping me get into the habit of eating right, he admitted. Well, it's nice to see someone else looking out for you, but what brings you here? Sakura is still gone, so it's not like you can ask her out on a date, she kept teasing, causing Naruto to pout. Kurenai watched as they continued talking. Now this, she could handle. Compared to Kaori, this was tame and, dare she say it, normal. Makoto seemed to genuinely care about him as well, if their conversation was anything to go by. To what extent was debatable, but still another person looking out for him, and one with political power. Anyways, I heard Naru-chan could make clones of himself that can actually do things, and thought, what better way to help clean my house? I also need some things from the market, so I'll leave that to you Kurenai-san, and he can do the dirty work, Makoto explained as she handed Kurenai a list. I'm sure Naruto can make a clone too. Kurenai stopped as she read down the list. There were a lot of things on here. Feminine things, that would probably be best to leave for a woman to buy. Still, why didn't she buy them herself? The most obvious answer was because she paid for the team, she was going to make good use of it, but seriously. Alright then, I'll be back once this is done, Kurenai stated as she started to walk away. She didn't need to watch over him if he was on good terms with her. Hopefully, though, he finished his task before she got back. Once, Kurenai was well on her way, Naruto entered the house. So, where should I start? First, he petered off when he saw the house was spick and span. He heard the door shut behind him and looked to see Makoto eyeing him up like a predator. He knew this was probably going to happen, but he held hope it wasn't going to happen, sort of. I think we should start in the bedroom, and see how much you've really grown, Makoto replied sultrily as she dumped off her house skirt and top to show her wearing something way too thin and lacy to be worn every day. Are you sure there's no dust bunnies you want me to get rid of? He asked in panic as she started leading him by the hand. Nope, but maybe I should dress you like a bunny again. I always liked putting on your tail. No, not that thing. Then quit stalling, get out of those clothes, and hop onto the bed. Alright, hey, he cried out upon seeing the shackles on all the bedposts. I thought we were past that. But I like tying you up, and being on top, Makoto replied as she pressed herself against him. Plus, I have something special planned. Very, very, special. 8. With Kurenai. Really, fugu fish was on the list. She couldn't even afford fugu fish, but then she didn't own a bunch of banks, and the second largest insurance company in Hinokuni. Why did the Harunos not live in a mansion? And, of course, fugu fish had to be prepared by a certified chef, who had just finally come off break and was taking forever to cut the damn fish up. Honestly, who makes this part of a shopping list? 8. At the house. Makoto's head bobbed up and down as she fondled the parts below, Naruto writhing helplessly from her ministration. Wait, is this part of what Hinata liked? She pulled off with a pop and let it rest against her cheek as she put on a wicked smile. You have grown, Naru-chan, or maybe I should say Naru-kun. But having the tool and knowing how to use it are two different things. Let's see if little old me can make this monster bend to my will, she stated as she got up onto her knees and straddled him, pressing it against her panties. With slow, teasing movements, she pulled apart two pink bows and the panties split down the middle and parted, allowing her favorite toy to nuzzle in between before she started rubbing back and forth on it as she glanced up and caught him looking. You wanted to see pink, didn't you? Sorry to say, I'm silky smooth, as you, no doubt, can feel. But Sakura doesn't shave, she hinted teasingly, obviously knowing why he shied away from her. Naruto muffled out something unintelligible. He was gagged after all. Oh, you prefer me instead, you flatterer you. But it won't get you out of this, like you really want to. She teased again as she lifted herself up just enough, grabbed a hold of him and positioned it, before slowly lowering herself down, the feeling of warm, tight silk assaulting Naruto as she did. Once she was firmly seated, she shook her hips a bit just to taunt the poor boy, before looking at him with a wicked smirk. And now, the real fun begins, she proclaimed before rocking her hips back and forth atop of him. 8. With Kurenai. This is wrong. This was Kurenai's thought as she searched the undergarment section of a clothing store while the owners modified a stack of dresses that had poofed out at her from a seal on the list. Why was she panty shopping for another woman? Finally finding what the list asked for, she held them up. These would never fit her, so why? They must be for her daughter. Why am I panty shopping for her daughter? This is so wrong. 8. The house cause you probably didn't even read the last part. The bed protested under the flurry of activity up top as Makoto picked up speed to the point of bouncing up and down, the impacts causing the beads of sweat to trickle down her glistening back. There almos gay almos. Her voice locked up as she shuddered violently, finally going over the edge and into bliss, then felt a familiar hot splash fill her up as her partner grunted out his as well. Such a good boy, always letting the woman come first. She kept him inside as she panted out the last of her climax and slowly regained herself. Once she did, she looked to him. Well now, what should we do next? She yelped out as her arms were caught. She looked to her sides to see two more Narutos wrapped around her arms. When did you make clones? She cried out as a third untied the original. Before I even came into the house. I can't let you have all the fun, so now it's my turn to try being in charge for a change, he declared as he made more clones. She could see he was trying to act tough, which just made it cuter. You brute you, Makoto complained none too effectively, the look of giddy excitement on her face giving her away. Then they pounced. 8. Kurenai. She had no idea what she was doing here. All it said was, Happy Dragon Salon and Spa, and a time. She walked up to the receptionist, who really didn't look like she was from the area. Excuse me, I'm here about a girls' 3 o'clock appointment here. Ganjin. Before she knew it, there were 5 other girls pushing her into the back room, listing off what they had to do as Kurenai feebly tried telling them that she wasn't the one getting the appointment. 8. House. Makoto didn't know what to think. Here she was, tied spread eagle to her own bed. One Naruto was pumping from below, another pumping from above. Then, there was the third one, which had promptly turned into a girl, dismissed all but one of the other clones, and started ordering the other 2, who looked apprehensive but just decided to go with it and dub in. Once they were at it, the female clone, Clone Chan, seductively crawled up to her, straddled her head and sat down, facing the other 2. As soon as Clone Chan started grinding herself into her face, she came again, despite her unusual feelings. Now, she was rolling through orgasms, especially when Clone Chan ordered her to service her. Makoto was hesitant at first, but when Clone Chan started using her nipples as a motivational device, she dub in. MMMPH. Makoto yelped when Clone Chan harshly twisted her nipples again. Your tongue is getting lazy, pet, Clone Chan chastised the older woman as she shook her hips a bit. Makoto's eyes widened at that single word, as she edged to a peek. A very big peek. Clone Chan turned herself around so she was looking dominantly down at Makoto. Oh. You like that, do you? The clone teased as she moved up farther, enveloping Makoto's nose as well, making breathing difficult, but the smell was intoxicating. Then maybe I should really train you to be my obedient, little, pet, Clone Chan whispered to Makoto seductively, causing the pinket's vision to wash to white as she shuddered violently over the edge. Too tight. I'm gonna GH. Makoto's last feeling were the males pouring into her before she finally fainted completely. 8, 8, 8. Kurenai. Kurenai practically floated down the aisles as she collected what was on the shopping list. All the things they had done at Happy Dragon had completely unwound every knot and crick. She ran through the list without a care in the world. A dozen eggs, tampons, milk, wasabi paste, a pregnancy test, dried seaweed, shampoo. Before she knew it, she was done. 8, 8, 8. House. We were no not getting GHCL clean. Makoto lightly protested, while bent over in the shower, Naruto right behind her. J-Ju Street one more. Moaha. Right there. She screamed out as she felt her sore body rise up to the occasion one last time. With one final thrust, the feeling dropped like the bass and they both yelled out to the heavens. A while later found them both in the kitchen, Makoto looking exhausted, and even Naruto looking tired, and apologetic. Sorry about taking over and everything. I just kinda wanted to see what it was like, he apologized, much to Makoto's confusion. Why are you sorry? I absolutely loved it, Naru-kun. I am a little confused about that female clone though, she admitted. Naruto scratched the back of his head. Yeah, I don't get that either. Kur-sensei said my emotions can take form in my clones if I don't concentrate on them, like that was my lust in clone form. So, your lust is female. That's what I don't get. I've never lusted after that image. It was basically to see what my mom might have looked like, and to use it on perverts. That was it. Oh, the things she could tell him. And I was concentrating on them, and she still came out, yet none of the others turned into her. It's like she's not even me. It was a puzzling mystery indeed. Schizophrenia, multiple souls, the Kyuubi. She had a hard time believing the Kyuubi would queen her if it had freedom to move around. Well, whatever she is, she definitely spiced things up, she admitted with a blush. Well, I guess that's something to think about next time, he mumbled out with a similar blush. There's not going to be a next time, Naru-kun, she told him in all seriousness. The shock on his face was clear as day. What? Why not? I think I've hogged you to myself for long enough. It's high time for you to find a girl your own age to make happy, instead of a lecherous MILF like me. Naruto was giving her the teary, puppy eyes. Ooh, don't give me that. I know I'm not the only one who likes you. You have two of them written on you for heaven's sake, she argued against the look. Kaori-san did that, not Ino. Wait, two. He asked in confusion. You have, future owner of Uzumaki Hinata written right above your butt like a tramp stamp, she answered, pointing in the general vicinity. What? When the hell? Goo, he stopped fussing with a sigh while Makoto giggled. It's a shame my daughter's name isn't on there. You know she's interested in you. Naruto pouted. You know I can't do that. Doing all that with you and then having a relationship with her. It would be really awkward. Don't think of it like that. Think of it like a family hand-me-down, she teased, which caused Naruto to facefo, which reminds me. I have a favor to ask you. Can you go talk to Sakura? She's been down in the dumps lately, but she won't tell me why. She'll probably talk about it to you though. He looked hesitant, but finally agreed. Okay. Where do I find her? The Team 7 training ground is where I would start. It's near the Shinobi Memorial. They were interrupted by a knock on the door. Ah, that's probably your sensei. Sure enough, when Makoto opened the door, there was Kurenai in all her glowing glory. Welcome back. I hope Happy Dragon wasn't too much of a bother for you. I couldn't make the appointment and they're sticklers about that, so I had to send someone, Makoto fibbed. She had set it up for obvious reasons. Oh, no problem at all, Kurenai replied wistfully. She was still on cloud 9. Well then, the shopping is done and the house is clean, so I think that's a mission accomplished, Makoto exclaimed cheerfully. Kurenai handed her the list with everything in it and Naruto said his goodbye, then the two went on their way. After telling the missions office that the job was done, Naruto turned to Kurenai. We're done for the day, aren't we? Kurenai raised an eyebrow. Yes. Why? Do you have a date or something? Naruto shook his head. No. Makoto-san asked me to see why Sakura is depressed lately. Oh, her daughter. The one she's pushing you towards, she hinted. Yeah, but I'm sure that wasn't her intent, he replied, but she was a politician, but then, he didn't need any help feeling an attraction towards Sakura. He had one all along, and now, if he was right, so did she, which made it all that much harder to resist. With that, Naruto went to find Sakura. Infinite patience. Team 7 training grounds. Sakura had her arms and head resting on the railing of the bridge leading into her training ground. Kakashi-sensei had dismissed them for the day over an hour ago, to which Sasuke and Sai left immediately, just like every other day. She had stopped asking Sasuke out once she saw a pattern. He would say, no, and Sai would say something derogatory, like, stop acting like a desperate bitch in heat, to which, she would try to destroy him, but he would always get away thanks to the obvious difference in skill. Hell, he's probably hand her ass to her if she did manage to catch him anyways. The obvious difference wasn't getting any less faded either, thanks to Kakashi's lax teaching style. This was no dream come true. She hated this team. Sasuke's rejections hurt, Sai's insults hurt even worse, and she wasn't even getting any better at being a kunoichi. She had book smarts. She knew that. She had even tried implementing them by going to the library. But the meager stack of books they had on anything shinobi related was standard reading for a Green Academy student. Completely useless. She was having serious thoughts about quitting. Maybe she could find a civilian job that didn't make her as miserable as this one did. There was the issue of being stuck in the ninja forces for at least 2 years, unless she was disabled, mentally unsound, or attempted murder on a teammate, but give her a few more months to figure out how to maim Sai and blame it on mental insanity due to his harassment. Yes, she had been thinking this out. Maybe if she could. Long time, no see. She rounded around with her heart in her throat to see Naruto looking at her in confusion. Don't scare me like that, she yelled as she tried swallowing her heart back down. Sorry, but you seemed out of it when I walked up, he apologized as he sheepishly scratched his head. Okay, he had her there. What are you doing here? She huffed. Well, your mom asked me to check on you because you seemed depressed. She looked at him in utter confusion. Why were you with my mom? Quote, she hired me and Kurenai-sensei to clean your house and run some errands around town. Ah, that made sense. Wait. She narrowed her eyes at him. You didn't go into my room, did you? Now here was a unique situation. He could answer truthfully, or... She watched as a rueful smirk came to his face. Oh yes, rifled through your drawers, tried on a few of your dresses, drew a mustache on your poster of Sasuke, but then realized it still looked too damn good. Sakura's shoulders shook as she tried her best to hold it in. She didn't have a poster of Sasuke anymore. You know, red really isn't my color, and I really need to shave my legs. That was it for her as she doubled over laughing. Well, it was one of 2 possible results he could have gotten, and it was definitely the more pleasant one. He gladly waited until she got it out of her system. Thanks, I needed that, she admitted with a smile. I aim to please. So, wanna talk about what's wrong? Sakura became hesitant at first, but then realized it was foolish to hold it in, especially to someone who had never bullied, belittled, or find her annoying, one of the few she could remember. She breathed out a sigh as she looked back down at the stream. It's my team, the whole thing. Naruto was surprised to say the least, even Sasuke. I figured you'd be happy that you were on a team with him. I was, for a week, but he doesn't even talk to me, he doesn't even stick up for me when Sai insults me. Every word out of his mouth has to be some derogatory remark about someone, and it's usually me. Ugly, weak tit, banshee, bubblegum monster, flat chest, he always finds something new to call me. Then, there's our sensei. He's a complete lazy ass. All he has us do, after showing up hours late, is teamwork exercises and D ranks. He hasn't taught us anything useful, she unloaded. Naruto looked peeved right along with her. Well, they're all idiots. Sasuke, well, he never gave a crap about anybody's feelings, and probably won't start anytime soon, and this Sai guy is an absolute retard. Sakura's surprise was evident as Naruto continued talking behind her. You're absolutely beautiful, you're one of the strongest kunoichi in our class and have the headband to prove it. You are a little loud, but who isn't when they're pissed off? I think your pink hair is exotic and stunning, and you have perfect breasts. Don't talk about my breasts. Regardless, I still stand by my statement, he declared, forcefully, which caused Sakura to clam up and sport a light blush. Okay, maybe he was serious. And this sensei of yours is a complete idiot. Teaching you nothing new at all. What's gonna happen when you finally get a mission outside of the village? What if you end up like Amy? Sakura looked at him in confusion. Amy, the upperclassman girl that bullied her before she met Ino, why? What happened to her? She asked with a tinge of annoyance. She was caught by Slavers. That turned her disposition upside down. No one deserved that. She's alright, isn't she? Naruto shook his head. They never found her. That was a month ago. Kur-sensei says, by this point, she's beyond help. That wasn't ominous at all. Maybe I really should quit, Sakura mumbled, but Naruto heard her. Don't do that, you just need to train more. Sakura turned around fully. Right, and how do I do that? By myself. I doubt building up muscles is going to help too much, and there's nothing at the library, she countered. Your mom was a kunoichi, wasn't she? Why not ask her for help? She hadn't thought of that. Her mother hardly ever talked about her days as a kunoichi. You could always ask your friend for help too. As much as she hated to admit it. What friends? She asked rhetorically, in a very depressed voice. Naruto looked at her incredulously. All those other girls in our class. You used to pack with them when you chased after Sasuke. And that was the extent of our friendship, she replied. So, she had no friends. Well, only she came to that conclusion. Well, I count as a friend, don't I? Naruto pointed out. She looked at him skeptically. You have a funny way of showing it. We haven't spoken to each other in over 2 years. Well, I figured you wanted your space. But now we can catch up, can't we? And I'd be happy to help you train, he countered with no small amount of enthusiasm. That damn smile was so contagious. Sai's was completely hollow, like looking at a statue smiling, if even. Sasuke's, who the hell was she kidding, he didn't smile at all. And Kakashi's didn't count, and were cheap anyways. But his, I'm holding you to both of those. But what can we train in? He smirked before walking up to a tree on an end of the bridge, then walking up it, and then upside down on a branch. Sakura was shocked. How the heck did you do that? She cried out. You apply chakra to your feet and run up with the right amount, he stated simply. Really? That simple? She asked skeptically. No, just all that I can explain. The rest is getting the feel for the amount you need, he replied as his face started turning red from gravity. Yeah, it only looked cool for about a half a minute until you started looking like a bloated tomato. She tried it, but didn't listen to the run part. She made it halfway up the trunk. This is pretty easy OWW, she yelped out when her calves finally gave out to the burning, and promptly found herself looking upside down, still stuck to the tree. Naruto hopped down. I said run up the tree. You need to work on building your calf muscles and channeling chakra to them before you can walk up it, because gravity is still pulling you down, he explained. Now you tell me. Get me down. All right, don't panic, he responded as he walked back up the tree behind her and started helping her back up, horizontal. Oi, watch where you're grabbing. Well, I have to grab there to get you erect. Don't say that. What? Get your hair out of the gutter. Sakura grumbled at that as he helped her back into position. All right, now we'll step backwards down the tree. I can't. What, why not? I'm almost out of chakra. Quote. You really need to build up your reserves. And why's that? Because Naruto-sensei says you do. And Naruto-sensei, she choked incredulously. All right, turn around facing me. What? Why? Quote. So when we get near the ground you can jump off, he explained as he impatiently did it for her. Tree walking for two was a strain on his legs after all. Now Sakura was pressed against him the other way, with her eyes wide. Boy was he strong, and so, forceful. Her cheeks reddened as Naruto started descending backwards with the same problem. God, that made more sense a second ago before actually doing it. Wait, what was he holding? Loose bark. Bracewoof, he shouted out as they fell, a measly 4 feet. Well, it wasn't like he could see behind himself all too well, and he was distracted. Well, that wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be, Naruto wheezed out after his lungs reinflated. Why yeah, Sakura agreed as she got up onto her hand and locked eyes with him. Seconds passed by before Sakura's cheeks reddened again. You can let go now. I don't want to. I mean, yes, he corrected as he released his hands off her, but. They both got up in embarrassment. So that's what he grabbed. Anyways, like I said, you have to run up the tree first before you can walk. A little backwards, but it helps in the end. It's good for chakra control and to build up your reserves, which will come in handy when you start learning new ninjutsu. Speaking of which, there's a jutsu I can teach you too, if you want, he bribed. Maybe it would make her forget about what just happened. She dusted herself off as she replied, I don't have much chakra left, remember? It doesn't take much, since it's only a supplementary jutsu. Won't your sensei get mad? Nah, she said I can teach it to any friends that I wanted, since she was paying so much for it, whatever that means. Oh, K. 20 minutes later found her staring in front of her as a trickle of water fell to the ground. See, you're a natural. Why yeah, holy crap, she knew a jutsu outside the ones she learned at the academy. There was something she thought she'd never see. Naruto looked up at the sky. Anyways, it's getting pretty late. Wait, you're leaving already? This was the most enjoyable on-the-job interaction she had had since, ever. Well, yeah, I have to get up early for practice tomorrow, and then a joint training session between teams 8, 10, and 11 the day after that. Joint training session. That sounded like more fun than whatever her team was doing any time in the near future. Naruto could see her eyes light up and couldn't help himself. You can be part of my team, since I'm out 2 teammates. I'm sure Kur-sensei wouldn't mind because of the same reason. Sakura would have jumped on the offer except for one thing, I don't know. I'd have to ask my sensei if I can. He better. Well, if he does. Meet us at training ground 11 the day after tomorrow. I'd love to see you there, Sakura-chan. Her eyes widened for a moment and he wasn't sure why until she approached him. A second later found her running off the bridge as Naruto stood in shock, staring after her. Thanks for everything, Naruto-kun, she called back as she left. Naruto stood there, still in shock, the warmth leaving his lips, but the taste still very much there. She'd had kissed him, and called him Naruto-kun. A 10-year-old Naruto would have been ecstatic, a 13-year-old one. I am an idiot, he yelled into his hands. Obviously, he had let his hormones get the better of him. Sure, Mako-chan pretty much told him to go for it, but that was one of the main problems right there. Gah, if Sakura was a boy, this would be a lot less complicated, or more complicated. For the love of Kami, he was supposed to be a pariah. Why did he suddenly find himself with girl troubles? He really needed to go home and rest. Between having sex with Makoto and uncontrollably flirting with her daughter, he was exhausted. God, he felt like a bad guy right then. 8. With Sakura. Sakura walked back to her house with her face red. God, why did she do that? A kiss on the cheek would have sufficed, but no, she went right for the lips. Talk about coming on too strong, too quickly. But she was too excited that Naruto was paying attention to her again. She still remembered the day he stopped. As happy as she had been, she quickly realized that, without Naruto bugging her, no one was paying attention to her. Quickly, her confidence dwindled as she fought against the other girls over Sasuke, and had no real social life or friends to act as a support base. Sure, her mom was there, but she was usually busy with council meetings, running businesses, and other crap, leaving her as a cliché. The sad, lonely, rich girl. The next 2.5 years were spent trying to get him to start again. Sitting next to him in class, glancing at him every so often to see if he was looking too, maybe she should have been the one to bug him for a change. It might have been a good idea, because he had generally toned down his bubbly attitude and with it, his apparent crush on her. Oh, he still caused trouble and played pranks, but the attitude behind it was less of a bratty kid seeking attention, and more of just a rebellious teenage troublemaker with a kindness streak a mile wide. And, yet, here she was now. He was talking to her, he had taught her more than her sensei had, he had complimented her heavily, and he had forcefully grabbed her ass, so forcefully, as she didn't know he was so strong. Her blush deepened as she made her way into the house. Makoto quickly hid the box she had been reading and regarded her very red daughter. Ooh, something happened. Sue, did Naruto cheer you up? She asked, all too knowingly. Yeah, well, tell me about it, and don't leave out the details, Makoto exclaimed excitedly. So, Sakura told her about what happened. By the time she was done, instead of looking excited, Makoto looked a little disappointed. Sakura, he was putty in your hands, and instead of molding him, you set him down to get cool again. Sakura was flabbergasted. What the, mold him? I'm not trying to make him my boyfriend. You kissed him on the lips. Obviously you were thinking of being more than just friends. I don't know what I was thinking. I mean, he's a great catch, and 2 girls, from your class, would agree with me, Makoto finished for her. Sakura looked at her mother in shock. What? 2 other girls? Who? Quote, Hyuga Hinata first and foremost. She confessed to him recently. Sakura crossed her arms, and it took years for her to do that much. Oh no, Sakura, once you open the floodgates on a Hyuga, things start escalating quickly. How ominous. And the other girl. You should know her quite well. You fought with her over a boy already. Now Sakura was in pure disbelief. What? Ino is after him. Quote, possibly. You can thank her mother for that, though, I don't think she's fully committed to the idea yet, but all it would take is a push. But don't you worry, I've already started the next step. You have. Yup, she chirped happily as she popped one of the seals on a list. She picked up one of the dresses she had modified. I turned them into China dresses. You turned my clothes into those. The slit is too high. And it looks like a smaller size. Sakura complained as she grabbed one up and scrutinized it. Well, yeah, they're supposed to go up to your hip. And the tightness ensures you'll be showing some leg off along with the rest of your curves, especially with your new shorts and high-heeled sandals, Makoto advertised as she pulled out the other articles as well. The shorts were fishnet, with a satin patch over the crotch. These weren't shorts. They were underwear, and the sandals looked just like her old ones except for the chunky heel on the back. It was way too much. I can't wear this. I'm going to look like a tramp. Makoto was unperturbed. Oh, but it shows off less than what Ino's new outfit does. Ino's new outfit. Quote, oh yes, Sakura, so don't let her one-up you. Wear these clothes and wear them with determination. Otherwise she'll scoop your man right out from under you. Quote, give me those. Sakura grabbed them up and marched her way to the bathroom to change. Makoto pulled up the box and promptly hid it as Sakura came back. I didn't say I wanted Naru. Just put on the clothes. Hi. Sakura ran away. Mataku, I gave birth to an indecisionist, Makoto mumbled as she pulled the box back up and continued reading the box. Quote, 3 weeks for the best results. Ah, but I don't want to wait that long. Oh well, she took so many helpers, she knew it was going to happen. Still, she hated waiting. 8. The next day asterisk. Kurenai regarded her sinisterly chuckling student. Alright, what did you do? Naruto smiled maniacally. Picture this. Cats love catnip. Sue, what happens when you drench someone's entire wardrobe in it? Kurenai's eyes widened. Oh god, there were various people that had labeled him the prank sage. She could only wonder what else he could come up with. 8. Asterisk on the other side of town. Enko panted desperately after taking shelter in a store. A massive herd of regular cats, Iramotes, and even freaking tigers ran past. Thank God, she lost them. And then she heard mewling. Her head snapped around to see a confused pet store owner, and flying kittens, claws extended for landing. 8. Back at the field, Kurenai tried keeping a straight face. The two were more entertainment than most movies coming out these days. Anyways, how did last night go? She pried. She never pressed too hard to find out, but found he usually liked telling her how things went, off the clock. Probably because she was one of the few who would actually listen. Well, I think I cheered Sakura-chan up. Apparently her teammates are jerks and her sensei hasn't done anything with them except teamwork exercises and D ranks. This was real news to Kurenai. Kakashi was hardly training them. A few reasons came to the top of her head, the most obvious being the apparent lack of bonding going on in Team 7. You don't give everybody knives before a fight, after all. Quote, So, I taught her the tree climbing technique and the blessed trickle. She caught onto them really fast too. Oh, and I kind of invited her to the joint training thing tomorrow. Sorry if I wasn't supposed to. Kurenai didn't seem to mind too much, not a problem. It just means we're going with a full team tomorrow. Huh, it does. She nodded. Tenten's sensei decided to take a few laps around Hinokuni and took his 2 male teammates with him. Why didn't he take Tenten too? 8. Somewhere else. A farmer was busy scraping at his field for some reason, when a dust trail started looming closer to his field. The farmer peered at it, until he saw a sight he never wanted to see again. A grown man in green spandex, with one equally hideously dressed boy, and another normally dressed person, loon over his shoulders, one cheering him on, the other looking ready to puke. They did. 5 more laps, and we will up the ante. Hi guy sensei. Bleeg. 8. Well, thankfully, he only has 2 arms, so Tenten was spared. Naruto chuckled hysterically. Spared huh? Wait, so where is she? I'm here. Don't count me out yet. They heard as they watched her sprint across the field before disappearing into the ground. 8. A while later, Tenten rubbed at her nose as Naruto applied a bandage to her forehead. Apparently ninjutsu isn't the only thing Guy didn't teach you, Kurenai proclaimed. No, when it came to traps, he said they were unyouthful, Tenten glowered. There were too many things he had labeled unyouthful, after all. Kurenai groaned a sigh. She needed to have a serious talk with some of the other teachers. Well then, that's what I'm going to have you doing today. Naruto groaned. A day of evading traps. Kurenai shook her head. No. A day of making traps. Both teens perked up. You mean pitfalls and snares? Naruto asked. Anyone can make those. I mean traps that maim and kill. Whoa, you know how to make those? Tenten asked in awe. Like I told Naruto, it became a hobby after I got caught in a bear trap. It's surprising how many types there are. Let's start off with the ones that are constructed out of the simplest and most abundant material. Bamboo. 8, 8, 8. Step there. Tenten pointed at the ground as she ordered one of Naruto's clones. Fuck no, the clone answered back in a sing-song voice that seemed to mock her prior tone. She had almost had it with these clones. They had been using them the whole day to test traps, and they were really starting to get an attitude. Look, you can either step on it, or I can pick you up and throw you ass first on it, Tenten threatened. The clone weighed its options before sighing and stepping on the target. An instant later, a 2-inch thick barbed spike shot up through its foot, dismissing it a second later. Evil, Tenten, very evil, Naruto chastised her. She crossed her arms in a huff. Well, your clones are being babies. Mine would never talk back. How would you know? You can't make clones, Naruto countered. Which is why I wanna learn that jutsu, she whined. It's a B-ranked jutsu, and a kinjutsu to boot, Tenten. We're not going to just teach it to everybody, even if we could get permission, Kurenai rebuked. But I could do so much with them. Double the weapons. Ghost competition. Sexual experimentation. Sexual X no. Back on topic. You too. Kurenai shook them out of their scene. This is a harpoon mine. A favorite in Mizu no Kuni, mostly because the harpoons are abundant from their faltering whaling industry. Shouldn't it have been anchored to the ground like a bear trap? It looks too light to keep a person down for long, Naruto questioned. Kurenai shook her head in the negative. It's just as effective, if not more sadistic, unanchored. The harpoon barb ensures that pulling it out isn't a good idea, and walking on it is impossible with a couple feet of the trap sticking out the bottom of your foot, which has barbs of its own. This leaves you hopping on one leg, or crawling on all fours, unless you have a teammate with a tool or a jutsu to cut through it, but even then you're left limping home with a 2-inch hole in your foot. Unless it's Guy Sensei, then he'll just switch to his hands, Tenten replied with a deadpan voice that relayed she wasn't joking. Even Kurenai had seen it. How long can he stay on his hands, anyways, she asked in curiosity. I've seen him do 500 laps around Konoha, Tenten admitted. Naruto and Kurenai chuckled hysterically. Anyways, it's getting late. We'll meet here tomorrow at 8, Kurenai announced. She knew the reason why it was proposed, but she was going to make sure it was at least constructive. Both teens snapped a salute before everyone went their separate ways. 8, 8, 8. Back at the hotel, Naruto sighed in relief as soon as he opened the door and set eyes on the cage bed. He took one step in before stopping dead in his tracks. What if Anko was already set to get revenge for his last prank? He decided to check for traps. He threw his equipment pouch onto the rack thing and started checking over the place. The bathroom was clear. The wooden horse looked fine. The stocks looked normal. The chair with a hole in it didn't seem unperturbed. Everything looked untouched, including the bed. With another sigh of relief, he undressed, threw his clothes in the hamper, and went to bed. A couple hours later, when he was dead asleep, the door to the cage portion of the bed slowly opened and out crawled a shadowy figure. Once it got up, it revealed an Anko, with band-aids all over her, sinisterly smiling. She crept over to the clothes cabinets. She opened the hotel one first, pulled out most of the more decent articles, and stuffed them into the hamper before throwing a couple glass vials in with them. Then she went over to Naruto's cabinet and threw a few more vials in before shutting it up again. With a ram sign, she heard the sound of shattering glass and crept over to his alarm clock. Resetting it, she chuckled evilly as she started creeping out of the room, but then spied his equipment pouch. With a chuckle even more maniacal and evil than the last, she hid the contents in the cage she got out of and then stuffed it with other things. With that she finally left, knowing tomorrow was going to be eventful. 8, 8, 8. Then next morning, despite the strange design of the bed, the actual comfort of it was out of this world. Even his old bed couldn't compare. It was like being enveloped in bliss, which made getting out of it all that much more difficult. Sniff. Did he fart in his sleep? It stunk enough to get him out of bed and look at the clock. 7 minutes to 8. What? Shit, he yelped as he ripped off his night clothes, tossed the hat on the bed and the rest in the hamper and made for the shower, all in an instant. A minute later, he was out and opening his cabinet, dry heaving, and slamming it back shut. What the fuck was that smell? Question mark. His eyes caught the glint of something at the base of the cabinet. They looked like glass shards. No, he blurted out in dread. The smell hit him again before he could even grab them, causing him to shoot back up in revulsion. No, of all the shit things to do, he yelled to no one in particular. Why wouldn't he? She had soaked his clothes in stink bombs, and they probably weren't just going to air out. Grumbling revenge, he went for the hamper to pull out his clothes from yesterday, only to finally get a whiff of them as well. No, he yelled again as he covered his nose. She had doused them too. She even threw his fucking sandals in there. ... He had nothing to wear, cause it all smelled like a rancid dumpster smeared in diuretic dog shit. He had nothing to wear, except, he went over to the hotel cabinet, somewhat hoping she had stink bombed it as well. Nope, the evil bitch, though it seemed like she threw the more decent ones into the hamper. He was left with a pair of crotchless chaps, a leather bikini bottom, a shirt, made of leather straps and steel rings, looking like a big net, and a leather trench coat that didn't close and a pair of male boots to go with it. He couldn't wear these, but, with 5 minutes left to get to the training field, what could he do? Nope, dancing around in panic wasn't doing anything. With a sobbing whine, he resigned himself to the fact that today was going to be the most embarrassing day of his life, and grabbed the clothes. A little while later, he was looking into one of the mirrors. In a quick decision, he yanked his headband off and tied it around his neck. At least he felt a little less naked now. With another sobbing whine, he ran out the door. 8. With Kurenai, he was already 10 minutes late. As unusual as it was, she wasn't going to send out search parties just yet. She was going to give him an earful though. Does this usually happen? Tenten asked, seeing Kurenai's restlessness. Well, more than recently usual restlessness. No, it doesn't. He's usually right on time. Something must have happened, Kurenai replied as she rubbed her bloodshot eyes. A little while later, someone entered the field and walked up. Judging by the hair, you must be Sakura, I take it, Kurenai asked rhetorically. Sakura fidgeted under the attention. Hi, Kurenai-san. Naruto-kun invited me for a joint training session. I hope that's alright. Kurenai nodded. It is. He told me about it yesterday. I am surprised that Kakashi gave you permission though. Actually, I haven't seen Kakashi-sensei since the day before yesterday. I asked the Hokage, and he told me he was youthfully kidnapped, Sakura explained, the confusion still present in her voice as when the Hokage told her the same. Oh dear God, Tenten mumbled. Apparently, she knew. 8. That's somewhere again. Come Lee, if we cannot complete 8 more laps around Hino Kuni, then we shall do 500 jumping jacks, the big green blur proclaimed, a silver and green blur flapping in the wind on his back. Hi, Guy-sensei, our youth shall prevail, the smaller green blur acknowledged, a black and tan blur flapping in the wind on his back. The farmer threw down his hoe. He didn't fucking care how much money he was making. He was switching back to a crop that didn't give him such horrible illusions. 8. Back. Air. Anyways, you look a little uneasy in those heels, Kurenai noticed diverted. Indeed Sakura was wearing the sandals her mother had given her, along with everything else. They were tricky at first, but my mother showed me how to get used to them quickly. I can actually do the tree climbing exercise in them, Sakura replied. Tenten whistled. Impressive. Your chakra control must be really good. Thanks. Tenten, an old friend of Naruto's, she introduced. Nice to meet you. Where is he anyways? Sakura asked as she looked around. That's the question of the day it seems. He's usually here by now. So, what the? Kurenai trailed off as she saw her student running, full speed, towards them. Except, instead of being a yellow and orange blob, he was a yellow and black one, and Kurenai's mouth dropped more the closer he got. Tenten's eyes widened to saucers, and Sakura went beet red. A considerable feat with so much of it leaking out of her nose. Sorry I'm late. I had to call medic nins for all the people who fainted on my way over here. I think I was partly to blame, Naruto explained. Kurenai was focused on something else. Naruto, what the hell are you wearing? The woman demanded in a raised voice. It was warranted. Naruto raised his hands in defense. Enko stink bombed my clothes cabinet and my hamper. Pretty sure she reset my alarm clock too. I had no choice but to use the hotel stuff. Kurenai facepalmed as Tenten steadied a wobbling Sakura and continued the questioning. What hotel provides clothes like that? You look like you came out of one of the Hellraiser movies. Naruto side groaned. It's the S&M themed room at a love hotel I'm staying at until my apartment complex is remodeled, he explained, then looked at Sakura. Hey Sakura-chan. Sorry for looking the way I do. Sakura-chan. Everybody looked at her as she stared dull-eyed at where Naruto was standing. Tenten let go of her shoulders and the pinkett started falling forward before Naruto caught her. Not another one. Hey, can I get some help here? As he tried keeping the girl upright. Tenten shook her head with a smirk. Nope. You get to carry your girlfriend. She's not my girlfriend. Naruto, quit complaining and pick your girlfriend up. We're already late. Kurenai ordered groaned. Wow wait, what about my clothes? He cried out as he swept Sakura up. You'll have to wear them until you get time to wash your other ones or get some new ones. The words left Kurenai like they were bits of her soul. This day was going to be hell. She could sense it. Tenten had something else bugging her. Hey Whiskers. Why don't you just poke some holes in the coat and tie it shut? And why the hell are they in your size anyways? Quote. This coat costs 7,000 ryu. The receptionist told me as much as I left. I'm not putting holes in it or I'll have to pay for it. And I have no idea why they're in my size, and I don't really want to know. What I do want is the wind to stop blowing. My inner thighs are getting cold, he complained. Meanwhile, Kurenai was trying to play down the situation in her mind. Well, he had less skin showing than Anko, maybe, and it wasn't like they were going to be in public. It was just other people she knew, so, it wasn't going to be all that bad, right? 8. Sakura's consciousness started rebooting itself as she felt like she was floating. Why didn't you faint? A far-off voice echoed. Because I'm only your friend and don't think of you that way. Oh, cool. Wait, so all those girls that were fainting in town. Probably. There were 3 voices, and they were getting closer and clearer. Why the hell would I be getting so much attention? The, obviously, male voice complained. Well, now that you're not hopping around like a hyper-lunatic, girls can see how attractive you are. Puberty is being a blessing for you. The older female spoke. Reet. Except you keep popping my zits whenever you see them. You have zits. Where? Why not you too? I like to pick at things. Don't judge me. Once her consciousness finally reached 100%, she opened her eyes to see the items that caused her unconsciousness in the first place. Her head shot up when she realized she was being carried. Hey, Sakura-chan, put me down, she stuttered out in panic. Naruto quickly did just that. She fumbled backwards as she pointed at his clothing. Wow, what in Kami's name are you wearing? She cried out. Naruto sheepishly scratched his cheek. Well, to sum it up, I'm in a prank war with a Tokubetsu Junin, and she got me back really good. It was either this or stink worse than anything you have ever smelled. But, that, she cried out as she eyed him up, and got caught staring at a certain place too long. Oi, Sakura-chan, my eyes are up here. Come on, can you blame her? What did you do? Stick a roll of socks in there? Tenten defended the poor girl. Well, Sorai, he turned around and adjusted himself, then turned back, there. Is that better? Put it back, I can see the outline. Ah, Sakura-chan fainted again. Mayhem was happening behind Kurenai, and she wasn't going to look. 8. They finally got into training ground 8, but the only team there was team 10. It was like looking in the past, as Asuma's mouth dropped, letting his cigarette go free. Choji and Shikamaru both gawked. And Ino was wide-eyed and losing blood. Naruto, you look like you just walked out of a leather gay bar, Asuma finally commented as they got closer. There had to be a quicker way to explain this. Prank war with Anko. Oh, PFFF the ha 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 ha. She really got you good, didn't she? Yes, she did. Hey Ino, could you help me with Sakura? He asked as he walked up to her. He was still carrying the unconscious girl, after all. Ino managed to get a step away before she started swaying. Wait Ino, you better sit down, at least don't fall in me ga. Tenten finally found her camera and snapped a few pictures of poor Naruto being dogpiled by unconscious girls. Choji and Shikamaru were doing something else. The great oppressor is down. Freedom, they both shouted, before pulling out a bag of chips and cloud watching respectively. Ever since Kurenai's intervention, Ino had been taking training a hell of a lot more seriously, and was sure to drag her SLA teammates for the ride. Hell, the first thing she did was booby trap the entire field with Choji and Shikamaru in it, and then lob flashbang notes at them. 8. Naruto decided to put the two blacked out girls under a tree, then Tenten whispered into his ear, then he grinned and pushed them right next to each other, then put Sakura's head against Ino's chest. Ino's left arm around Sakura's neck and rested on her left shoulder, tipped Ino's head onto Sakura's head, wrapped Sakura's left arm around Ino's waist, and wrapped Ino's right arm around Sakura's waist. With a nod to Tenten, she snapped a picture with a chuckle. Kurenai and Asuma looked at each other and shrugged. Choji and Shikamaru were still enjoying Ino free time. Anyways, when are we going to start? Naruto asked. When Team 8 gets here. But then, they should have already been here. If I had known they were going to be late, I would have made you change, Kurenai answered crassly. Is there still Tim? We're here. Fuck. Naruto cursed as Sum and her team came into view. Sorry for being late, but Hinata-chan was having second thoughts. Sum trailed off when she saw Naruto. Both Kiba and Shino went wide-eyed. That's a lot of leather, Kiba mumbled. Or, is it? Shino countered. Hinata peeked out from behind Sum to see why her team had frozen up. When she saw Naruto, her stare turned to one of shock, before stumbling out the rest of the way to get a better look, letting everyone else see what she was wearing. It was a lot like Ino's. Well, the skirt was definitely shorter and more Anko-like, showing off the fishnet shorts underneath that went down to above her knees. The fishnet, warmers, went up to her shoulders and down to her wrists with fingerless gloves compensating, and her top didn't have buttons and was more like a wrap around the neck tube top than a vest. All in her favorite color. With her stomach exposed, it led to a very surprising fact. Considering her face, everyone thought she would have a little more baby fat. Instead, it was tight and toned. Holy crap, Hinata actually had some muscle on her. Hinata's expression slowly turned from one of shock to absolute joy as she came to the realization that she wasn't hallucinating, and that Naruto was actually dressed like he was in her dreams, except he wasn't holding her leash, or a riding crop, or an alien-looking vibrating writhing device that mockingly resembled a penis, but beggars can't be choosers. Hinata's eyes lit up in joy as a happyscape of chirping birds, dancing flowers, and pink fluffy unicorns dancing on rainbows played around her. And instant later, Sum was spinning and Hinata was right in front of Naruto. Hello, Naruto-kun, she greeted as her eyes, discreetly, roamed his body. Hey Hinata-chan, you look really good in your new outfit, he admitted. Hinata only seemed to get happier, thank you. You look really good in that too. Really really good, she lost herself in eyeing him up again. Naruto may be a beginner in the signs of attraction, but even he could recognize a look of lust. Hinata's was practically pouring out. Speaking of pouring, those were hidden under that coat. Naruto quickly continued before he looked too long, yeah. I'm kind of in a prank war with a Tokubetsu Junin named Anko. She stink bombed all my other clothes, so I had to wear these. Hinata made a mental note to get Anko a gift basket. Well, why you still look really good in them, really really good. I hope you wear them more often, she bravely admitted. Naruto's cheeks reddened as he scratched his head. I don't think that's such a good idea. Especially with all the other people that blacked out like them, he said, pointing to the tree where the other two were. Hinata glanced over there, before glancing back at Naruto, then going wide-eyed and shooting back to the tree. Sakura was here. Why was Sakura here? Single quote. Sakura wasn't supposed to be here. Hey Anyo, why is Haruno-san here? She asked, with a pointed stare in her direction. Oh, Sakura-chan, I invited her after we trained a while ago. And since Tenten joined us too, I actually have a full team for once. For a little while anyways. Hinata was only half listening. He was calling her Sakura-chan again. They trained together. For God's sake, Bleachy wasn't enough, now Pinky was in the mix again. These were her thoughts as the two girls started to wake up. 8. Sakura was having the best nap she could remember having in a long time. She was warm, her head was against something soft, and the smell of lilac filled her nose. What the hell? She opened her eyes to see purple hills, her head shot up next to see blonde hair and blue eyes opening up. Everyone watched as they, quickly, untangled themselves, but not quietly. What the hell, forehead? Just because I fainted doesn't mean you can cuddle up with me. You wish, pig. It's not my fault you showed your true feelings and pulled me close to you. I did not. Then why was your arm wrapped around my neck? Quote. How the hell should I know? Why were we both out anyways? Quote. Sakura thought about that. Well, I fainted when Naruto, she went red again. That's right. He was wearing. Hey, glad to see you're finally awake. Speak of the devil. They both shot a. You're going to get an ass chewing. Look, only for it to turn into a recently popular, what the gigafuck. Look when they saw Hinata near him, and boy did she look different, and not just the clothes. They couldn't quite put their finger on it, but it might be the narrowed glare she was shooting them as she grabbed Naruto's head and promptly stuffed it between her breasts in a bold, mine, play. She had breasts. That must be it. For Sakura, it was a strange sight to behold such a bold Hinata. For Ino, who had already trained with the girl once before when she practically threw herself at Naruto and begged to come with, not so much. The glare-off ended when the head slid out and dropped to the ground with the rest of the body. Meanwhile, the rest of the genin and their leaders were watching the little episode. This is more interesting than Ika, Tenten stated, to which everybody nodded in agreement. Oops. Maybe I should have been a little more proactive in preventing this, Kurenai admitted. She had seen it coming, but had done nothing to prevent it. In fact, she was pretty sure she had some hand in actually encouraging it. She had to admit, she was a little jealous. She wished she had the same problem when she was a genin, in heterosexual order that is. She did have Naruto's exact problem, and then Asuma came into the picture finally. I don't get it, Kiba stated. There is nothing not to get in this situation, Shino countered. Sure there is. Like, is this a love triangle? Or a rectangle? Or, what the heck do you call this? 3 dogs fighting over a piece of meat, Sume said bluntly. If I had known there was competition, I would have worried more about her combat skills. I don't think any of us want to tell Inoichi or Counselor Haruno that their daughter is in the ER because of a fight over a boy, Kurenai countered. Good point. Don't count Ino out just yet. None of you have seen what she can actually do with her taijutsu, Asuma countered, and Choji and Shikamaru got phantom pains in numerous places. Sume gave a feral grin. That sounds like a challenge, sounds like we're pairing them up in spars. 8. Bleary Eyes opened an unknown amount of time later, to find himself laying under a tree, with a puppy on his lap. About time you got up. Since when did you become such a playboy? Kiba complained. I have no idea. Maybe this is why Sasuke runs away all the time. What are you doing anyways? Naruto questioned as he tried to collect his thoughts. Waiting for you to wake your leather-encased ass up so we can spar. My mom's words. The others are already paired off and fighting. True to Kiba's word, the others were already sparring. Ino was paired against Hinata. As one-sided as that may have sounded, Ino was actually giving Hinata a run for her money, doing kicks and twisting in ways that would make any man cringe, or get ideas. Shino was forcing Shikamaru to fight, having already knocked out Choji, from the looks of it. And Sakura and Tenten were sparring, well, more along the lines of Tenten teaching Sakura how to fight. 8. You see, feels way more natural, doesn't it? Tenten asked with her hands on her hips. Sakura continued the altered kick. It wasn't exactly like the book said to do it, but it felt way more natural. It does feel better. Told you. You're not supposed to follow the book to the letter. You have to think of it more as a guideline. If you just mimic what it tells you, exactly, it will never feel natural and you might as well tell your opponent what you're going to do next. Sakura had the decency to be embarrassed. She had always thought she had to do things to the letter and by the book. No one had ever told her otherwise, and the teachers seemed to encourage it. But then, this wasn't the academy anymore, was it? Good grades didn't equal experience, and being the teacher's pet wasn't going to get her anywhere. Looking at Ino and Hinata, both could wipe the floor with her in taijutsu alone. She really needed to change her game plan if she wanted to keep up. Hey, you know all the other genin here, right? Tenten asked, knocking her out of her thoughts with the question. Yes I do. They're all from my graduating class. So you know the one that's sitting under the tree with Naruto? Tenten asked, discreetly thumbing the direction. Kiba, yeah, I know him. Does he have a problem with me, or something? Because I could swear I've caught him looking at me a few times now, Tenten asked in uncertainty. Quote. Looking at you, yeah, like is there something on my face? Wait, do I have a zit somewhere? Tenten asked feeling around her face. Tenten, being an orphan herself, was just as clueless, if not more so, as Naruto had been. Sakura didn't know what to tell the girl. 8. Hey, Naruto, who's the other girl you brought with? The one with the buns. Naruto quirked an eyebrow at him. Who? Tenten. Yeah, Tenten. Well, she's an old friend that I met back up with after being split between apartment buildings. Stupid biased landlord. So, you're not interested in her? Now, Naruto was really looking at Kiba. No, just friends. So, yes, she's single. Kiba waved his hands in front of him with a blush. I wasn't thinning that. I was just thinking that she looks really strong and cute. Hey, anyways, let's get this spar going, Naruto declared as he got up and dusted himself off. Quote. Hell no. 8. With the teachers. What are those 2 idiots doing? Sume asked crassly as she watched what was going on under the tree. It appears Naruto is trying to get Kiba to spar with him, but Kiba doesn't want to because of the way he is dressed. Now, Naruto is mocking him, Shino commented, having beaten both Choji and Shikamaru. 8. Come, Kiba, let us test our fighting prowess in a battle of the ages, Naruto mocked in interpretive body gestures. I'm not testing anything against you while you're wearing that. And stop humping the air. Tisk. Fine. I guess I'll go spar with Tenten. Quote. Ga. Fine. Defend yourself, Uzumaki. 10 minutes later, Kiba's face was in the stream, as the majority of the group were around him. Not even a minute ago, he ran to it, screaming the whole way, and plunged his face in. I'm sure it's washed off by now, Kiba, Naruto commented. I'm trying to wash off the shame, ass, Kiba shouted before resubmerging his face. Don't blame me, you're the one that dodged the wrong way. Because you're the one that did a flying kick at my head. Oh no, my poor baby boy got a leather-encased man crotch to the face. However will you live with yourself? Sue mocked her son. Easy for you to say, Mom. It's never happened to you. Ha, the hell it hasn't. One of my teammates' taijutsu style was based on submission holds, and she wasn't known for being a heavy dresser, Sue retorted, much to Kiba's blueness. He dunked his head completely back into the stream to wash away the images. Blurble, no, he was trying to drown himself. Sue wasn't having any of that. Oh, no you don't. I didn't spend 12 hours of torment to give life to you, just so you can go out like a drama queen, she barked as she yanked him out. Asuma decided to take the lead for now. Alright, let's switch it up, for one last spar. Then, we're going to get specialized. So, Naruto, spar with Sakura. Kiba, spar with Ino. Hinata, Tenten, you'll be going against Shikamaru and Choji, but I have something special in mind. Shino, you get a break since you already defeated 2 of my genin. Alright, Tenten, Hinata, come here, Asuma prompted as the other 2 pairs spaced themselves on the field. 8. With Sakura and Naruto. I couldn't tell you this before, what with everything that happened, but I like your new outfit, Naruto admitted. What, really? She thought he hadn't noticed. But then, when could he tell her when she was fainting like a civilian over what he was wearing? God, her face was still heating up. Whoa, you're even taller than me again, by an inch. When had he gotten so close? It's the heels. Guess I'll have to grow another inch so we're even again, Naruto joked. These were 4-inch heels. What the hell was with this growth spurt of his? Anyways, are you ready? Oh, why yeah, they both took their stances, causing Sakura to scrutinize his, amongst other things. Tenten had told her what had happened between Naruto and her teammate, but I know it's deceiving, but it still looks horrible, she admitted bluntly. Then it should be fun, Naruto commented before he started the attack. 8. With Ino and Kiba. Yeesh, Ino, where the hell did this come from? In the academy, you were hardly a challenge, Kiba griped as a leg swung over his head after a hasty dodge. What did she do? Mind power a contortionist or something? Ino huffed, I've always been able to fight like this. I'm just taking things more seriously now. Is that why you don't smell like an air freshener factory exploded anymore? Ino went from huffing to glaring death lasers at him, in an instant. Less talking, more fighting, she roared as she lunged at him. 8. With Tenten, Hinata, Shikamaru, and Choji. This is too troublesome. I give up. Same here, too much strenuous exercise isn't good for the stomach. But neither of you hardly fought, Tenten argued. It's too troublesome to fight anymore on such a nice day, Shikamaru whined as he stared at the clouds from the place that he fell to the ground. Tenten growled in her throat as she looked to Hinata and nodded, prompting the girl to turn on her Byakugan. Well then, I guess it's time to start the next bout of training then. More training. Honestly, can't whoa, Shikamaru yelped out as a kunai embedded into the ground right next to his head. The next part of training is evasion practice. So start dodging, she exclaimed as she started hurling weapons at them with reckless abandon. 8. With Ino and Kiba. Wow. OWWW. Kiba was caught staring at Tenten too long and got a punch to the face while still sparring. Why the hell did you let your guard down? Ino griped. Kiba pointed at the flurry of activity that was happening on the other side of the field. Ino looked. Quote. That's a lot of weapons, she commented with a sweat drop, watching the girl continue to attack her teammates. It must be her specialty. That's awesome, he replied as he looked on. Ino nodded, then ran those words through her head again and looked at him in confusion, then Tenten, and then him again. The coy smirk finally came. Oh, so you like tough girls do you? She teased, causing him to jump. What? No, it's nothing like that. Yeah, sure it isn't. Face it, you got a thing for Naruto's friend, she declared with all the hand gestures included. Kiba growled, normally, why don't you worry about your own love life, he grumped, as he stared behind her at something interesting. Ino put her hands on her hips, and why should I do that? Kiba pointed to where Naruto was, right behind her, because Sakura has had your boyfriend pinned for about 10 seconds now, he retorted as he pointed behind her. Naruto is not my boyfriend. How many times what? She whipped around so fast, Kiba was surprised she didn't snap her neck. 8. With Naruto and Sakura. Ha, I finally got you, Sakura shouted in triumph. Sure, it was their 4th bout already, but at least she knew she wasn't completely horrible with taijutsu anymore. It was a pain in the butt fighting Naruto, though, mainly because of the freaky style he was using. It was like fighting 2 people at once, one in front of her constantly, and the other in hiding, waiting to strike. She knew about it beforehand from Tenten, so there wasn't any initial letting down of her guard, or surprise when it happened. A lot of good that did her. It just had her constantly on guard, not knowing which move would turn into what. It was after 3 rounds that she realized something. All those shock moves were offensive in nature. So, she did a very Naruto thing. She body slammed him while he was charging her, got up faster than him, pinned his arms above his head, and straddled his waist. Maybe that was why he was turning beet red, and why she was following suit after realizing it as well. Oi, forehead, don't get any big ideas, Ino yelled across the field, prompting Sakura to quickly get off of him. Suddenly, explosions. 8, with Tenten, Hinata, and their victims. Oi, Hinata, focus, Tenten shouted as she kept up the attack on her fleeing targets. Asuma told her to, otherwise Shikamaru might think of a counter. Which is why Hinata was playing spotter to keep them from going into hiding in the woods. Huh-oh, rewrite, Hinata refocused from the events happening elsewhere, they're hiding behind the tree, 14 meters ahead, 2 o'clock, she relayed. Oh, no you two don't, Tenten growled as she pulled a low-yield explosive note. 8, with the victims. Is she trying to kill us? Choji cried out, holding a chip bag that looked like it was mangled by a dog. I think we pissed Asuma-sensei off, and she's dealing the revenge. Then what's Hinata doing? Quote, making sure we can't hide thunk his scatter, they both ran for their lives as the tag went off. 8, with the Junin, aren't you taking this too far? Kurenai asked Asuma in concern. Asuma harumphed as more explosions went off, not really. There's a 5-second fuse on those tags. An academy student could dodge them. Plus, the both of them were beaten by Shino. A genin that doesn't even use taijutsu on an average basis. So, I've decided that Ino's current naggings are right, and that I need to light a fire under their ass as well. Who would have thought I'd be uttering those words? Thanks for bringing her out, Kurenai. You're turning out to